Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call our meeting to order. Welcome. Tonight I know we have a large agenda, and so I just would like to remind everyone, no clapping, and I appreciate it if you no speaking or yelling from the audience. So please be respectful of everyone through the hearings and things. So with that, I'm going to have a roll call by our City Clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
Okay, and we're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance tonight to be led by Boy Scout Troop 760. So they're over here.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our invocation tonight will be by Reverend Frank Halleck of the United Methodist Church of Vista, and he is right there. I saw him. Okay. Welcome, Reverend.
Thank you. Thank you. I invite you to a moment of reflection in whatever way your tradition or the dictates of your heart invite. Lord, at this busiest time of year, we are sometimes distracted by all the demands of the season, shopping lists, cards to be mailed, family gatherings to organize, decorations to put up. And in the midst of all that, these leaders and these members of our community gather to do good work, to serve this community, to protect its citizens, to dream big dreams and create new visions for an even better Vista. Grant that even with the distractions and all that responsibility, their work will be borne with grace and good humor, with collaboration and consensus. Help all of us, leaders and members of the community, to be called to our highest selves. In this season, as we celebrate the coming of light into the world, realize that what the light is calling us to is to live as servants, each to the other. That is what we're gathered here to do. Bless this meeting and those called to serve, we pray. Thank you for the grace and peace that lies at the heart of Christmas. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. In accordance with the Round Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to the Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. And the next thing is our approval of our agenda by our City Manager, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. There's one item regarding C19, which is the issuance of Community Facilities District number 92-1 Special Tax Refunding Bond Series. We'd like to pull this from the consent calendar and vote on this separately. That doesn't mean that it needs a discussion. It just means it needs to be voted on separately based on state statute.
Okay, so the next thing on our agenda, we have a presentation tonight. Is a letter of appreciation to John Meyer in recognition of his service to the city. And so I'm going to come down there and read his proclamation. Would you guys like to join me on this down there, John? And also his wife is here. Alice is here, and his son Gavin is here. So I think they should come up too. Where are they? There they are. I have too much paper here. Hold on. Hi. Welcome. I'm going to give this, I'll turn this pretty side out to you. There. And I'm going to read here. So we have this letter of appreciation. We appreciate John. He's been with us for a while now, so we're very sorry to have him go. So congratulations to Director of Redevelopment and Housing, John R. Meyer, who's retiring after 33 years of public service and over 4 years at the City of Vista. On March 26, 2012, Mr. Meyer was hired as Director of the Redevelopment and Housing Department for the City of Vista. As required by state legislation, the Vista Redevelopment Agency was dissolved in 2012 and replaced by the successor agency. Mr. Meyer has coordinated the successor agency's administration of enforceable obligations, completed existing redevelopment projects, and has assisted with the progress of formally dissolving the redevelopment agency's operations over time. During Mr. Meyer's tenure, he coordinated the sale of many properties that had been previously purchased by the redevelopment agency for future development opportunities, ensuring those property sales were compatible with the city's long-term development interests. A main focus of Mr. Meyer's efforts has been the Paseo Santa Fe project. Mr. Meyer contributed to the project acquisition and oversight for the Phase 1 Paseo Santa Fe streetscape improvements, which included a selection of materials for the project's landscape, the hardscape, and the street furniture. He also oversaw the design of the Veterans Memorial Park. In addition, Mr. Meyer's efforts have provided the City of Vista with enhanced housing and job opportunities and vital infrastructure improvements. In 2015, Mr. Meyer spearheaded the update of the city's mobile home park accord, working closely with area mobile home park owners and residents to ensure equitable treatment, fair dealing, and a model lease agreement. Mr. Meyer has also been instrumental in executing development agreements for the design and construction of the Paseo Santa Fe and North Santa Fe apartments housing projects and the upcoming Grove project on Civic Center Drive. Unbeknownst to many, Mr. Meyer also possesses artistic skills, having been awarded commissions for 2 kites over Vista. Mr. Meyer is particularly proud of the relationships he has built within the community, having made connections to the area property owners and their families in order to facilitate a vision for a more prosperous Vista. The Vista City Council offers its sincere appreciation for John Meyer's dedication and commitment to the City of Vista, commending him for his years of invaluable service to the Vista community, and wishes him very well in his retirement and future endeavors. So I think that's the last page, and either that I lost one here. No, that was it. So I go back to that one more time. We wish him very well in your retirement and your future endeavors, and congratulations on your retirement.
Congratulations, family. Hey, retirement, right? Lots of golf. Nice to meet you guys.
Okay, well, congratulations. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, your teeth's back there, man. You guys. Oh. Good job. Can I say a few words? Please.
Yes. Oh, yes. Say something.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor, thank you for the kind words. I started my public service over 30 years ago, and I have to tell you tonight that the last 5 years that I spent here in Vista have been the best, most fulfilling part of my career. I want to I appreciate the support from the City Council and the City Manager. I value the teamwork of my colleagues on the executive team. I value the hard work and admire the dedication of city staff. I've made a lot of good friends here at City Hall and in the community, and I will remember that for a long, long time. I'd like to thank my staff, Amanda Lee, Brenda Hicks, and Cindy Grady, for all their hard work. And lastly, I'd like to recognize my son, Gavin, who's here with me tonight, and a very special thanks to my lovely bride, Alice. Who has loved and supported me for many, many years. Thank you all. I'm very fortunate to have had this time in Vista. Thank you.
And we're very fortunate. We are very fortunate to have him. And he promises, I think, that he's going to stay on with the Boys and Girls Club on the board there. So he serves on our Boys and Girls Club in Vista. So we're glad he's going to do that. So thank you. So we'll still see you.
Yes.
Thanks, John. Oh, you can do a picture.
Mayor in the middle, too. Yeah, that's what you do.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay. I know I didn't handle that very well when I got to that last page there. Okay, so this thing on our agenda is our consent calendar, items C1 through C18, actually C1 through C19. And so the recommendations on the consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public can remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk's secretary, and items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following the adoption of the calendar. And we are going to move the C19, and then we have one from the public. We have C7. The public is going to remove from this consent calendar. Does anybody on the council have anything that they want to remove? Councilmember Green, do you want to remove something? Push your speak button.
I think I got it.
You got it.
I think I got it.
He's a pro.
I just want to note I want to abstain on C2, and I just want to register a no vote on C7. Is this the time to do that?
So the abstention on C.
Not yet. You have to
two
wait
is
until, because somebody pulled it, so we're going to have some discussion on it. So you can, no, it's okay. You're okay. You're good. So I would need a motion for the balance of the consent calendar. Anybody?
I had it up there.
Oh, there we go.
I'll make the
Councilor
motion.
Aguilera.
Yeah, I'll make the motion for the balance of the consent.
Second.
I got a second by Councilmember Franklin. Okay. Please cast your votes. Okay, that passes unanimously. So then we're going to go to item C7, which is land acquisition on South Santa Fe, 444 South Santa Fe Avenue. And so
Mayor, Council, would you like a report? Yes.
I think we need a little report, yeah.
If you didn't know, we have John Meyer, Director of Redevelopment, in front of you.
He's not done yet.
Not done yet. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. As part of the design for the Phase 2 of the Paseo Santa Fe infrastructure, there was originally a roundabout intended to be located midway between Guajome Avenue and Terrace Drive. Through the design, we've determined that the best location is to relocate that to Guajome, and as a result, additional right-of-way needs to be acquired. The subject property at 444 South Santa Fe Avenue has been appraised. We've offered $650,000 to purchase the property, and this offer has been accepted. An additional $100,000 has been allocated to cover escrow, closing costs, soils testing, environmental analysis, relocation costs, and related fees. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, do you want to hear the speaker? Okay, Terry Collins.
Hi, good evening, Terry Collins, Vista Community Advocate. I just wanted to pull this item so we could have a formal discussion about it. I know there's quite a few people who are concerned about the roundabouts and have voiced those concerns. They don't want a second roundabout on South Santa Fe. They don't like the first roundabout on South Santa Fe. But I also wanted to pull it to formally request that we have community involvement in the rest of the design of the Paseo Santa Fe project. We don't want a second sign either, and this is just an opportunity to say, please involve the public, have some community workshops on weeknights or on Saturdays, not at 2 o'clock on Tuesdays. There are a lot of people who are very, very interested in this project and would like to have input. And I just, I guess that's all that I wanted to say about this. Thank you.
Okay, do I have any council member comments? Do you have any questions for anybody? Anybody? Then I would entertain a motion or not. Councilmember Aguilera.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay, have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And then, Councilmember Green, you want to? Oh, voted no. Okay. Okay. That motion passes with 1 no vote. Okay, the next thing is on our agenda will be item C19, issuance of Community Facilities District 92-1 Special Tax Refunding Bond Series 2016A and redemption and defeasance of the 1993 revenue bonds, North County Square Community Facilities District. And so this is a separate vote. We don't need any discussion. We just need to have, correct? Correct. Okay, so do I have a motion for the passing this? Motion?
I would make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. Next thing on our agenda is our public hearings. We start with public hearing PC 19076.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think Councilman Green wanted to finish what he had started on the consent calendar. He had another item on the consent calendar that he wanted to.
Yeah, I just wanted to abstain on seats.
Microphone. Okay.
There you go. Sorry. I just wanted to abstain on C2 as those were the minutes I wasn't a part of.
Rather than no vote?
Yeah, rather than no vote.
C2?
Yeah, and that
You
was
already recorded the abstention? Okay, so it was already recorded. Sorry. It's
Okay. We good? Okay. Okay, so now, let's see. So these speakers on here are old, right? Okay, clear. Okay. Okay, public hearing number 1. Okay, so this is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding planning case 19-076 Vista Palomar mixed-use project. Public hearing is now open. Community Development and Engineering Director John Conley will introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Michael Ressler, our principal planner, processed this application, so he'll be giving the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The application before you tonight is the Vista Palomar mixed-use project. The application number is PC 19-076. The application includes a request for a general plan amendment, a specific plan amendment, a development agreement, a special use permit inclusive of a site development plan, a condominium housing permit, as well as a tentative subdivision map. The subject site is 17.16 acres. It's located on the north side of West San Marcos Boulevard between Business Park Drive and Avenida de las Rosas. The site is one parcel that's been rough graded to accommodate 5 industrial parcels. Staff notes that the city boundary is located on the southerly and easterly edge of the site. Surrounding land uses include an industrial development along the northwest area of the site, residential to the east, to the south, as well as to the southwest. The applications before you tonight include a general plan amendment as well as a specific plan amendment. The general plan amendment would change the land use designation for the subject site from research light industrial to mixed use. The specific plan amendment would create a mixed use overlay for the subject site. The proposed mixed-use development would be developed on 17.16 acres. The development includes 191 condominiums on 14.82 acres, which equates to 12.88 dwelling units per acre. The remaining 2.34 acres would be dedicated to the hotel site, which would feature a 100-room hotel. Access to the site would be provided by a common driveway located along West San Marcos Boulevard. The recreation amenities associated with the condominium development would include a swimming pool, a spa, meeting and restroom buildings, a cabana, tot lot, gathering space, palapa, benches, as well as open turf. A special use permit is required for the hotel, subject to the proposed mixed-use overlay standards. The site has been designed to maintain 191 condominiums on 14.82 acres located on the easterly portion of the site, with the remaining 2.34 acres dedicated to the hotel site. Access to the site would be provided by a new 36-foot wide signalized driveway along West San Marcos Boulevard, as well as a secondary emergency access located at the northeast corner of the site, which would link the subject site to Linda Vista to the north. In terms of parking, the site has been designed to comply with the mixed-use parking standards in regards to the condominiums. The mixed-use standards would require a total of 468 parking spaces. The submitted site plan indicates a total of 464 parking spaces provided. In regards to the hotel has been designed to accommodate the required parking spaces per the commercial standard, which would be 100 parking spaces. The condominiums would range in size from 1,460 square feet to 1,810 square feet. The project has been designed to maintain 22 two-bedroom units, 101 three-bedroom units, as well as 68 four-bedroom units. Each condominium has been designed to maintain a two-car garage as well as 90 cubic feet of storage space. In regards to the hotel will maintain a total of 100 guest rooms. Each guest room would range in size from 351 square feet to 416 square feet. And the hotel would feature such amenities as a main lobby area, a fitness area, as well as a swimming pool. The condominiums buildings would be 2 and 3 stories with a maximum height of 38 feet. The condominium buildings have been designed around an Irving Gill architectural style. The exterior of the buildings would be enhanced with stucco exteriors, combination tile roof and parapet roof systems, decorative wood trellises, wood eyebrows, as well as wood outlookers. When completed, the condominiums would maintain 4 distinctive earth tone color schemes. In regards to the hotel has been designed to maintain 4 stories, a maximum height of 50 feet. In order to create integration between the hotel and the condominiums, the hotel has been designed around an Irving Gill architectural style. The hotel would maintain a stucco exterior, lap siding, as well as a built-up parapet roof system. The proposed general plan land use designation would allow up to 40 dwelling units per acre. The proposed development at 191 condominiums equates to 12.88 dwelling units per acre, which complies with the maximum 40 dwelling units permitted by the proposed general plan land use designation. In regards to the mixed-use overlay development standards, the proposed project has been designed to meet all applicable development standards, including building height, parking, open space, as well as landscaping. The mitigated negative declaration has been prepared for the project and has been circulated from September 12th to October 11th. 5 comment letters were received and are included within the staff report. Staff has provided responses to each comment letter, and those comment letter responses have been based on environmental evaluation. This project has been brought before the Planning Commission on November 16, 2016. At the conclusion of that meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval by the City Council at a vote of 6-0. That recommendation also included recommended conditions that were related to visual analysis, off-street parking for the condominium development, condominium amenities, pedestrian access, construction hours, as well as coordination of the proposed traffic signal. With that, staff is recommending the City Council approve resolutions approving a mitigated negative declaration, a general plan amendment, a special use permit inclusive of a site development plan, condominium housing permit, a tentative subdivision map, as well as ordinances approving a specific plan amendment and a development agreement for the proposed mixed-use development. With that concludes staff's report. The developer is here to provide a brief presentation to the City Council, and the developer as well as staff is here to answer any questions you might have tonight. Thank you.
Okay, do you want? I have 7 speakers on the developer, so shall we take the speakers? Okay, so I guess I'll call Integral Communities, and Nina, you're going to speak first.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you so much. We listed all of our speakers for the benefit of response to comments, but just I will be doing the presentation tonight, and I'd like to reserve some time for response to comments after I go through my notes. Oh, sorry. Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Nania Hammond, and I represent the applicant. We'd like to thank you for your thoughtful review of our project over the course of the last 2 years. Tonight marks the 4th publicly noticed meeting on this project, and we look forward to walking you through some of the changes that we've made in the time that the project has been under review. As staff detailed in their presentation, this mixed-use project brings forward a 100-room TOT providing hotel and 191 for-sale condominium units, which help the city to achieve their housing needs. Through a series of workshops with both City Council and Planning Commission, we received design review comments to the plan and subsequently reduced the size of the plan by 16 units. In the next few slides, I'd like to show how the feedback from stakeholders has positively impacted the plan. We have focused on connectivity and livability as it relates to the homes, the parking, and the open space. The gently meandering streets weave through the neighborhood. Each residence is connected through a pedestrian link off of the street to parking and open space. With the loss of the 16 homes, we were able to increase the open space and the amount of recreation by 40%. We added 2 active recreation areas for a total of 3 and many passive. These active recreation areas now include a tot lot, barbecue area, and a pool, spa, and community building. We added guest parking spaces and made sure that they were distributed through the site so guests will not have to walk far for a visit. Owners take direct access to their homes from an attached 2-car garage. We made an effort to create a grand entry which allows for monumentation and distinct and easy access for both the hotel and the residential. To do so, we more closely align the hotel and residential entry points. The owners and guests are greeted by this resort-style entry treatment and the gated residential entry. Prior to the meeting tonight, we worked closely with Las Brisas Pacificas, our closest neighbor, to hear and understand their concerns and questions. In response, we've made some changes to the plan by reducing the eastern buildings on the edge to 2-story for a loss of 2 units. We added a wall and enhanced landscaping along the eastern boundary to serve as a buffer. We agreed to further landscape the northern slope, and we relocated the emergency access. The result of these changes is a further reduction in overall units for a loss of 2 additional units and an increase of parking to 14 spaces over the requirement. Throughout the process, we have worked with staff, you as policymakers, stakeholders, and our neighbors to work through comments and questions. Through project refinement, we believe we have achieved a high-quality design. We are excited about the changes to this project as it has made it more dynamic and livable. Thank you for the opportunity to bring a hotel and for-sale housing to the city of Vista. We respectfully request your vote in favor of our project this evening. We're here to answer any questions you may have, and we have our consultant team as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to hear the speakers next, everyone? Okay, we'll start with speakers. Hold on just a second. We'll start with Tim Hoops, followed by Tim Hemig. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. You'll see when the yellow light goes on, you have 30 seconds left. And then there'll be a red light.
I go green, right?
Yeah, you're green now.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to present tonight. I'm a resident of the Laurels. It's right across the street. I live in San Marcos. This development directly impacts us, so we got involved just a couple of weeks ago. As we learned about the development, we were kind of late to the game, but have some significant concerns, so hopefully I can review those tonight. First and foremost, I want to say that this is a kind of a complex project because it kind of sits right on the intersection of 3 cities, San Marcos, Carlsbad, and Vista. So that creates some unique situations. The other complication is it happens to sit on probably one of the most busy thoroughfares in North County, San Diego, which is San Marcos Boulevard and Palomar Airport Road. It's a significant traffic issue. I do not oppose, and most of the folks that we are with in our community do not oppose the development. We just think it needs to be done in a very thoughtful manner and something that fits the area and the communities surrounding it. So that said, I think you're currently facing a situation up on your northern edge with Oceanside and Vista, right? Where there's a community that got approved by Oceanside. I think it's called Villa Steria. Are you familiar with that? No? Okay, so a development on the northern side in Oceanside that got approved by Oceanside, but the impact ends up being on Vista to put the kids through schools, to support the traffic stops, to support the street infrastructure and everything else. This project is very similar. Amazingly, it's by the same developer. So I understand that. I'm just trying to figure out a way so that we don't have the same thing happen to you that is, potentially going to happen to San Marcos and Carlsbad as well. I think personally there is a reason why a city develops a master plan. They spend time and money to thoughtfully create a city. And any of you who have gone into a city with a master plan see the difference between a well-planned community and a kind of a hodgepodge community. And Vista, I think, seeks to be that kind of community. I used to be a Vista resident, so I know Vista pretty well. It has little spots of interesting developments, and I think it's trying to get to the point where it's abiding by a master plan. The problem is we have developers that frequently come in and buy a spot, a lot, or a couple of lots, and then they want an exception, and an exception, and another exception, and another exception, and another exception, and ends up breaking up the whole plan. So let me talk about the Planning Commission. As I attended the other night, I expressed my appreciation to the Planning Commission for their thoughtful review. They listened to our concerns. I thought the 6 recommendations they made were really good recommendations. I just wanted to review them really quickly because I don't know that they were...
So your time is up, so maybe somebody else can review them with us.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. Appreciate your time.
Okay. The next speaker is Tim Hemig.
Good evening. My name is Tim Hemig. I'm a resident of the Laurels as well in San Marcos. I don't envy all of your jobs. You have very difficult jobs. I understand that. And I think you have a very tough decision this evening. Let's face it. I think we all like to develop and build things. I think as humanity, we enjoy seeing growth. But with the current levels of build-out in North County and the congestion and impacts that we all face, we must figure out how to develop and grow smartly. I would say that smart development planning should be one of Vista's highest priorities, probably second only to public safety. Unfortunately, the Vista Palomar project that is before you tonight is not smart development. My reasons for saying that are many, and I sent an email and I detailed that much better than I can in these 3 minutes. But basically, I think some of the key items are there was inadequate public notice to communities that were clearly being impacted by this project. There was no attempt to conform the development to the surroundings, which include, low-density housing like my neighborhood. There remain unmitigated significant impacts, traffic, noise, visual impacts that could be reduced with a better project and smarter planning. And the project really hasn't even addressed the 6 conditions of approval that were mentioned several times and are in your packet. One example is the condition of approval, I think number 2 from the Planning Commission, is that there should be 596 off-site parking spaces for the condominiums. There are only 464. So as a condition of approval, I would think it can only be approved if that condition is met. It is not. 132 spots are missing. There's many more impacts that I detailed in my email. I hope you read that, and my letter, and many comments from the community. But probably the most glaring reason that this is not smart development is that there's a 33-home housing development just south of the project called Meadowlark in San Marcos, which has been on the books for over a decade. The developer knew this. Neither the Vista or San Marcos could figure out how to integrate these projects. There's a separate entry and exit, a separate stoplight on West San Marcos Boulevard, which we all know is probably one of the most congested, dangerous roads in North County. And I live right there. I have to try and get onto that road every day, fearing for my life and my daughter's life, who now drives as a newly driving 16-year-old. So the developer said they tried to work with communities. I think they did try, but I would say it was inadequate attempt. And the fact of the matter is they did not make the level of changes that would make this smart development or make us happy as neighbors. So in conclusion, make this a simpler decision on yourselves, reject the project as proposed, or ask for a continuance so that you don't have this tough decision because of this complicated and very controversial project in front of you tonight.
And your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kent. Is it Bercioli? Was I close on your name?
Ken Bercioli.
Okay.
I've talked before this group before. As a matter of fact, I've talked 5 times. This is my 5th speech to either a council or a planning commission. I'm a resident of Las Brisas Pacificus. I happen to be the HOA president. I've been that for the last 5 years. We have fought tooth and nail for well over a year to reject this program. But after the Planning Commission's vote, we realized that this may be a dead issue and it's ready to be approved. And so we, with the help of the people from Integral, we got together with them and worked out some details that we would accept as good changes, positive changes for our community, Las Brisas. We're the closest neighbor. Our western border is their eastern border. We have some homes that are within 10 feet of their property. So this is a big concern. The homes along there's about 15 of them all told in what we call our western section that are really affected and really worried about this thing. Where everybody owns their own house, owns their own land. We are concerned about privacy, noise, and safety on the roads. I will say this, that Integral has worked with us very nicely, well over 8 hours during the year, trying to work out details. And I got to give a credit to Nina and to Lance Waite for working with us and working out some of our concerns. What she described on the map was correct. Those are the things that we agreed to. And if they are voted on by you as being the way it's going to be, then we will not oppose this development. We will not oppose it. We wish them luck. We want to be good neighbors. We want them to be good neighbors. They're entering a construction phase, which we want to have a rapport with them so we can work out complaints and details so we get through this thing in a proper fashion. The hotel, I think the hotel is a dead issue. It's going in. The roads, there's traffic. There is a lot of traffic. I know that. But there's traffic every place. The morning rush and the afternoon rush is a disaster no matter where you go. So we're interested in safety. And I've been after the city of San Marcos at their council meetings, conversations with the mayor, Jim Desmond, and to get the traffic, the speed limit from Business Park to Rancho Santa Fe lowered down to from 50 to 45. And I think that'll go a long way. I think that the development company is for that.
Your time is up, sir.
I hope you're for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Carrie Bruner, followed by Ned Ligas.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Bruner. I'm a resident of the Laurels. I live exactly across West San Marcos Boulevard from the site that Integral Communities is proposing to you. And I am also a licensed and practicing landscape architect in the state of California. So I'm pretty well-versed in these type of projects and the type of issues that come up and working with communities to make better improvements and redevelopment. I do have a big issue with the project, and I don't think it's the best use of the city's space. I think that changing the project, rezoning it to a mixed use isn't the appropriate thing. It doesn't follow your general plan that you guys just spent so much time redoing for 2030. Your primary objective of mixed use is to promote smart growth. This is out of your general plan. The key principle of smart growth is alternative means of transportation. This site is not suitable for mixed use. This is not on a multimodal corridor. There is not adequate public transportation. There's bus stops, but they only stop 3 times a day. The nearest one is over a mile walk, and it will take you an hour and 20 minutes to get to the closest Sprinter station. There's not walkable to parks, schools, or community resources. Mixed use should be evaluated by zoning and also by the specific plan. And this project does not meet a lot of the goals and objectives that were set by the Vista Business Park specific plan, which is a big chunk of this part of Vista. And I can highlight those as well. It doesn't preserve the characteristics of the neighborhood that share common development patterns, which is our neighbors of the Laurels, Rancho Dorado, and of Las Brisas. And it doesn't minimize the impacts of density adjacent to residential development. And this is all stuff that I've taken out of your general plan that you just crafted in regards to making Vista a better place. So I have big concerns with that. I also have concerns with the site plan. It's incompatible site uses. I don't think it's appropriate for a hotel to be sharing an entry drive with a residential area where children are going to be playing of all ages. Vista is the largest family per size in all of North County. You guys are at 3.3. It's much higher than any other city in North County. You guys need developments that are suitable for that. The second thing after family size is elderly and disability. This site doesn't address that out either. And also green space. There's not enough green space on this site. The green spaces shown are mostly bioretention basins, which are unusable by residents. They just treat the water, and they're not for children to play in. All those main courtyards are an appropriate design for the site. So I just am here to say that I don't think this is the appropriate land use. I don't think it's the right development. Architecturally, it's not going to fit into the patterns of the Rancho Carrillo area. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next, no. If you continue to clap, we'll take a recess. No clapping, please. Ned Ligas, followed by Taylor Horry.
My name is Ned Ligas. I'm a resident of the Laurels. I have a backyard that overlooks the development area, and I'm not too worried about what I'm going to see. I am more concerned about the viability of this project. What I mean by viability is the people that buy and lease in that area. How many of them are going to be gangbangers, criminals, etc.? These people are the ones that will bring down the community, the entire community, including the Laurels and a few others. I want to see some language built into the contracts, sales contracts, and lease agreements so that it will facilitate law enforcement to get these people out in a timely manner before damage can be done. The second item I'm talking about is going to be parking. Now, we've talked about cars, but we haven't addressed tractor trailers or large vehicles such as that. There's no way for them to park in there if they happen to be a homeowner. They're going to have to park somewhere. And where are they going to park? The Laurels, because it's the closest place to park. So I hope that something is done by the council to address the viability and also the parking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Taylor Horry, followed by Philip Warner.
Good evening, council members. First, I'd just like to apologize. I can't stay for the whole meeting tonight. I tend to stay out of respect for your time, so my sincerest apologies. Second, I'd like to welcome Councilman Green. Hi. You'll probably see me a lot, and the hair color may change a bit. So I had a coworker attend the annual North County Business Breakfast a few weeks ago, a week and a half ago. And I would just like to read a passage that the City of Vista wrote about the new Innovate 78. And for my other city members here, Innovate 78 is a cooperation between the 5 cities in North County: Escondido, San Marcos, Vista, and Oceanside and Carlsbad. We say sometimes a use does not work or fit within your specific city, and in the past it was lost to another region. My question to you is, these figures have not been checked. With a 3% vacancy rate in our current business park If we were to now remove the industrial zoning here, how are we a good partner to our other 4 cities? If something does not fit in their region and we have nowhere for it to go, how is this collaboration going to work? How is this cooperative going to work? The best fit for a business or development along the corridor, this has strengthened the relationship between the 5 cities as they all strive to increase job opportunities and drive economic value through collaboration. Will our greatest export to our neighboring 4 cities be people? And that's it. Will we not offer them any economic development? You've heard already, and I'm sure you will after I leave, from quite a few other city members from San Marcos, and obviously there's a development in Oceanside now that I didn't even know about with us. They don't like it. So moving forward, how are we going to be the partner that the cities want to work with if we can't offer them anything? If all we can offer them are headaches and complaints from their city members? This is written here. I don't know who wrote it, but this is what we're putting out there. I don't want to live in a city that is a liar. In 20 years, they're like, oh, screw Vista, excuse my language. You have to, I've said this before, but responsible building, right? We have to have the forethought about what this will look like in 20 years. If this really is what our focus on collaboration is, then we should be actively doing it now. Why remove the industrial zoning if that is what we were offering our neighbors? Second, I ask that we wait 3 seconds. I ask that we wait until we can close the mixed-use zoning loophole. Do not grandfather this development into the headache that we have been fighting for the last 18 months. You've seen me before. You will see me again if this goes through and if more projects like this continue to go through. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Warner, followed by Jim Murphy.
Hi, good evening. My name is Philip Warner. I'm a resident of the Laurels, and wish to thank you for your time tonight, as well as Integral Communities and all the developmental work that's been done, not to mention the hard work and feedback done between the mutual communities affected by this project. I want to echo some of my fellow residents of the Laurels in terms of the general opposition to this plan. Most importantly, in terms of your vote tonight, to either vote no or to defer on the following reasons. One, I think most importantly, there's a disproportionate and most importantly, an unquantified burden on the city of San Marcos associated with this development. That pertains to schools, fire, and other. I don't think their opposition has been fully vetted with the full context of this development, and I think that needs more time. Honestly. One, I think there's also a lack of a cohesive architectural plan, primarily at the hotel, relative to the adjoining development. There's a very modern architectural element to that hotel. I don't believe it really fits in with the continuity of the adjoining communities. I think that's important. This mix and match thing is something that might be, call it the trend, as it's been kind of dubbed, but maybe not be the best plan for a real cohesive feel between established neighborhoods, new or otherwise. I believe there's also an understood acoustic effect, noise effect on the adjoining communities. I think the signature of noise associated with the development itself has been well vetted. However, the effect of road noise, the canyon effects, has not been fully determined relative to the adjoining communities. We get a lot of road noise. One of the most amazing things about our development is its quiet and tranquil evenings, and I don't believe the effects of retaining walls, an acoustic response, echoing, if you will, has been fully vetted there. Traffic, it's a rhetorical conversation, obviously. I drove here tonight late, I might add. My apologies. It took me 40 minutes to go about 6 miles, and this doesn't make that any better, of course. And also, to echo the other speakers, one is somewhat of an attitude that we've seen in terms of what the Planning Commission's recommendations were. Valid or not, I understand for very good reasons. Some of the recommendations of the Planning Commission may have been actually less or more relaxed than what the community is actually planning, integral communities or the development plan. However, it was taken by us that it may not have been received fully valid or certainly responded to systematically against what they had brought to the table. And in closing, I would just ask that you guys very carefully consider your vote tonight. We sincerely appreciate the burden that you guys have, and either vote no or defer a vote on this particular matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Jim Murphy.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I live in the Laurels. I'm opposed to this project. I thought what was set up there originally, light industrial, works well in that space and works well in our neighboring communities. I do not think that this high-dense mixed use is right for that area. I understand one of our neighbors in the Las Brisas got up here and spoke highly about the developer. He said he's looking forward to him starting construction, but it's my understanding that the developer could sell it to somebody else, and that builder could come here and change those plans. I've met with representatives of the city of San Marcos. They're not happy with this project, primarily because of the increased traffic. They have plans for 2020. They envision plans on how to correct some of the traffic problems we have, the congestion we have now. And they're saying that this project hurts, doesn't help what they have planned. At a minimum, I think you should either continue this to give us more time, to postpone it, or to vote not in favor of it. Our neighborhoods are great places to live. I don't think this is going to make it such a nice place to live. I wish we had been given more time. We found out about this to people in the Laurels just a couple of weeks ago. Even though we're not within this 500-foot area, it definitely impacts us. If you walk down our streets and look, you'll see where this project is and how close it is to us. The developer said that he had posted a hearing notice on the property. I went over and read it. It says that if you challenge this development in court, you may be limited to only concerns brought up tonight at this public hearing. I just want to say on the record, I oppose it. I feel that I have the right, individually or collectively, to seek legal ramifications or legal remedies in the future for things that were discussed here tonight, for other issues that were brought up at the planning meeting a couple of weeks ago, and for any known and unknown reasons that we're not aware of at this point. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. That's the last of our speakers. So, Council, it's back to you. Do you have any questions of the staff or any comments? Anybody? Deputy Mayor Rigby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I, too, have some concerns about this project. Aside from the architecturally incompatible nature that the project has, it doesn't fit in architecturally with the surrounding community, albeit San Marcos. There seems to be some difference in the style or the design or some of that between the actual condominiums and the hotel. I'm not sure that that's appropriate. We're trying to keep things not looking haphazard or just thrown in to our parts of the city. But aside from that, some of my concerns are when we're looking at the projects that we want to have in our city, one of the first questions that we have to ask is, how does this enhance my community? How does this enhance the lives of the Vistans that we have here? And I don't see where this is going to enhance my city, and I don't see where it's going to be beneficial for the people who would end up living there, aside from having a roof over their head. And looking at the design here, we have 22 two-bedroom units, 101 three-bedroom units, and 68 four-bedroom units. And just the thought of those units tells me that you're expecting families to move in and children to live there. As it was already stated, there are no parks within walking distance of this development. There's no transit close by. It's not near a Sprinter station. The bus station or the bus stop, it is. I don't know that that's close enough for walking. And if there is a Stater Brothers down the road, but again, that's quite a walk. But there isn't a lot of. It's not a walkable community. It's not close to anything that you can't. You have to get in your car and you have to drive to it. And I have looked at the plans that they have here, and it's shown up on the screen right now with the green space. And I do have a question for somebody on the developer. When you look at the green space and you see the dotted black line going around on the top of the photograph, it's closest to the buildings. It's right up against the side of the buildings. And at the bottom of the photograph, you have the buildings and you have a little bit of shrubbery, and then you have the dotted line and more green space. Am I correct in assuming that from the dotted green line outward, that is the retention, that is not usable green space for residents? Is that correct? That is not correct? Would you mind explaining that for me, please?
I have a pointer, actually, if you'd let me grab it. Are we speaking specifically about the Paseos or the dotted line that represents the walls?
The walls, okay. So then again, the answer to my question then would be yes, because if those are walls, then that's green space the kids can't get to. It's not available for use by the residents. It's just landscape and decoration. If it's on the other side of the wall, am I correct?
So this dash wall here allows for a slope buffer in the front. Is that the dash that you're talking about? Then there's some areas within the project that allow for retention, as noted by this dash space. Mm-hmm. But for example, this area above it is a barbecue, palapa, flat space. So there's some differentiation. Of course, the pool rec building, doesn't serve any retention. There's an area over here that's a tot lot, no retention. There's a grass area that's flat over here on this side, no retention. So there's a lot of different denotations within the plan.
And then, okay, thank you. I think you've answered my question. I appreciate it very much. I am also not in favor of amending our general plan or revising the zoning for this. We do have issues in the city, all over the city with this, and we're trying to clean some of it up. And I'm not in favor of bringing in another mixed use and adding to the situation, adding to the problem that we have with that particular zoning designation. And I was opposed to this project in the beginning when it came to us before, and I am still opposed to this project. I also don't think that having a hotel, and I mentioned this when this first came up, the city had wanted to see a hotel there, and they wanted to put apartments or condos, and so we're trying to marry the two up. I don't think that I don't think it's a good marriage myself. I don't think that we should have especially with one driveway coming into a development of residents and children, and then you have a hotel on the other side. I just don't see how this is going to benefit or enhance my community at all. So I am sorry, I'm opposed to this project on every level.
Councilmember Aguilera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a couple of questions for staff. So I guess on November 16th, Planning Commission approved this project 6-0, but they made some recommendations or suggestions? Yes. What were they exactly?
So because it's a general plan and zone change, it has to go through the Planning Commission for a formal recommendation before coming to the City Council. So on November 18th, we went through that public hearing for their formal recommendation. Their action included 6 items, which are listed on page 2 of 419. They're bulleted there at the top of the page, addressing a number of project-related items that they made part of their formal recommendation to the council.
So what exactly is a visual analysis that was recommended?
That is typically a photograph that you build a 3D model of the project into to see a before and after view of what the project would look like from different perspectives.
Okay. And then I noticed that they had the off-street parking recommendation, I guess, increase parking. Is that what the recommendation was there?
Yes.
They also recommended condominium amenities. Now, I know the developer has gone through a couple of different changes there and added a pool and different things, tot lot and that type of thing. So those are the things that they were recommending?
So they recognize that and recommended additional amenities.
And then what do they mean by pedestrian access?
So
from
before
off San Marcos Boulevard there? Or?
Well, before the access gate in the secondary emergency road, which is up in the corner of the project here that extended north up to Linda Vista, they asked for a pedestrian gate there so that people could walk from the project up to Linda Vista Drive. The applicant is now proposing to move the secondary access road down here, and so a pedestrian gate could be included for pedestrians to move up into the business park if they wanted to.
Okay. And then the construction hours, 7 to 7. I mean, is there that doesn't seem like that's slam dunk, right? That's easy.
The only difference there is our normal code allows construction on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and so they recommended that they not be allowed to do construction on Saturday.
Okay. Well, I think I'd be in favor of eliminating Saturday. And then there is going to be a traffic signal added in that they're helping to pay for, I assume.
The City of San Marcos has indicated that they would allow a traffic signal to go in, which the applicant would have to enter into an agreement with San Marcos to do, but they would be responsible for the payment of the construction and maintenance of the signal.
And San Marcos is responsible for traffic or signal coordination, right?
The entire street in front of the project is within the City of San Marcos.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Ooh, okay. So I've been racking my brain on this project because I haven't had 2 years to look at it. So I've been cramming 2 years into about 6 days. So it's been awesome, number one. I do have questions because when I look at projects, I want to look through them a lens of, number one, do we have the infrastructure to support the project? And number two, is it safe? So if I have residents in here, is it safe? You know, in the event something goes wrong, are we able to, respond appropriately? Because it is our job to protect the public. So with that said, I have two safety concerns that I think that it may be a fire. If a fireman's been here, a fire marshal's already walked the site, I might have have a question for them. And in addition to the general plan, we're also amending the Vista Business Park specific plan. So there's a couple sections in the Vista Business Park specific plan that I feel like this particular project may cause safety concerns. So maybe somebody's already looked at this because it's been on the docket for a couple of years, but maybe not. So number one, the Vista Business Park section plan, I want to say that I have it down as D5-2A, states that the maximum height of buildings should be 45 feet. And it's my understanding that the hotel exceeds 45 feet. Is that correct?
That is correct. As part of the project, they are recommending or proposing an overlay zone that would overlay this particular property within the specific plan, which would allow the hotel to be slightly higher.
So I guess my question is I'm assuming we have these plans and things because of safety issues. So I guess my question isn't so much for the city as it is a fireman is, do we have these set at 45 feet because our buckets can only go so high and this is an elevated lot, or can we defend, number one, this property? So this is my number one question for for Jeff. So please stay up, Fire Chief.
This is our Fire Chief, Jeff Hahn.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, or Fire Chief Jeff Hahn. To answer your question, we now have a 100-foot aerial ladder, so we can hit a 50-foot building, no problem, as long as the setbacks are adequate. We've reviewed the project, and the setbacks are achievable and adequate throughout the project.
Okay, so one other question that I have for you is that, and I guess it's kind of everybody, you'll be the one answering this, is Section 510 of the same specific plan for the Vista Business Park states that any development over 15 acres it should or recommend, so it's just recommendation, it's not a requirement by any means, but should have 2 access points for the public to public streets. So obviously this one doesn't have the 2 access points. It's only got the 1 access point that everybody's coming in as far as public. Are those other access points opened up in the event there is a fire? I don't know, so I'm just kind of asking.
The secondary access that they talked about up at the top of the project is one that we required, and they moved it from the other location. But the common practice is to have either an all-the-time open access that the public can use at will, or to have a emergency secondary access, which is that one, which is locked off and only used in times of emergency, that would get opened up for egress out of the area.
Okay, so if we have 600 residents in the event of a big fire, they're not all funneling out of one area per se.
Correct. Or
okay.
If the emergency is near the primary access, then we can get them out the back.
Okay. Thank you for that, Fire Chief. The last thing, and that's all I have for you fire-wise, so thank you. The last thing that I had concerns with was the infrastructure, and I know we spoke with how San Marcos doesn't want it. There was actually a letter in our package from San Marcos Unified School District. The deal is school district boundaries are already drawn. So if this project is approved, they are zoned for San Marcos School District. I went ahead and spoke with Vista Unified. As you know, we have a great working relationship with Vista Unified. And in the event San Marcos Unified cannot adequately educate that community, Vista Unified has said that we have ample space in our schools, because that was a big thing for me. Obviously, I have 4 kids, so I want to make sure my kids are not going to be in a school that's over capacity, which San Marcos schools currently are. So I also reached out to another councilman in another city. When it comes to collaboration and working with other cities, I want to make sure you guys know we are trying. I met with a lot of people in this audience, kind of racking my brain to figure out what I want to do with this. So I appreciate the information. Thank you, Fire Chief, and thank you, City, for the report.
Councilmember Franklin.
I have a question, and I apologize, Chief Hahn, but I kind of wanted your thoughts. I'm sorry. I wanted your thoughts on the safety aspect of moving the secondary fire access. We've moved it much closer to the primary access, and for the safety of the residents, does it in fact make more sense to have the, and I know that this was a request that was asked for by the neighboring community, so I don't want to alter it unless there's a safety concern. Do you feel that there's a reduction in the ability for folks to get in and out in an emergency by moving the secondary fire access from the opposite end of the project to the near corner?
You know, ultimately, the first access point meets the code exactly because it's completely opposite in the project. But we've done a number of these, and really the important point is that it's a good thoroughfare that goes out, and that it doesn't lead to a common hazard. For example, if there was wildland urban interface on that side contiguous, and then we were going to put people into that, then that'd be problematic. But this is more than adequate to get people out of the site and into an alternate roadway path that doesn't connect to the same street in case the problem is the street.
Right.
So it meets all the elements of the code that way.
Thank you. Thanks for coming back down.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah. My other comments, just to provide a little historical background on this, when near the time I was first elected to the council, the staff brought this proposal to my attention, and one of the concerns was that we're reducing the last few developable industrial lots. That is something that was definitely a concern that I had, losing the developable industrial space. However, I think the compelling thing for me in whether or not it makes sense to rezone here is the history, and I think we've had discussions internally about the length of time. I think it's been greater than a decade that this land has been graded and ready for. Am I right, Mr. Conley? Is that?
The previous industrial map was approved in actually 2011, and the grading plan was approved in 2013, and ultimately the as-built was finalized in 9/3/2013.
So the land was graded in 2013. Okay, but before that, the land has been available for development for what length of time? in its current zone.
Correct. When this specific plan was adopted in '93, it was identified as research light industrial.
Okay, so I'm not very good with math. 20, unless I got my calculator. 20 some years.
23 years.
23 years. So, to me, the issue is this land's been available to be developed for research or light industrial use for 23 years. And now we come to a point where we have somebody who wants to bring economic activity and development to our community after 23 years without a viable application that was approved. And so I think it's fair after 23 years to ask the question about what is, in fact, the highest and best use that the free market would see for this property. And we as a community want something that adds to our economy, that adds to our community, that does not take away in any way. And so we make zoning choices. We don't always get every parcel just right. This particular parcel, 23 years in the making, and we haven't found a better and higher use. Now we've got a very thoughtful development. I'd like to make it known, since I don't think it was said, that the developer really did not have an interest in building a hotel. They made that very clear to us throughout this process. That was, in fact, the city's idea, and the city requested that the developer include a hotel. And the developers worked hard to include a hotel, and that's something that we, from the city and from my perspective, I appreciate that you were willing to do that. It is a significant source of revenue to the city in the long term. It is also assists our business park by creating available hotel space. It helps us and our businesses that want to grow here for them to be able to bring folks in. It also generates economic activity regionally. So that is very much something that the city asked for. We looked at what the potential return to the city for different uses was, and the city determined that a hotel here would make the city whole for the change in the type of use. And so that is something that the developer, I think, is to be commended for, because that was a long effort for them to find a cooperative hotel. And I just wanted to make that point that was our request of them to do that. As for the parking concern, I too strongly share the concern about the mixed-use zone. And because of other things that have been developed, it's a little hard to swallow zoning anything else as mixed use. However, this is a true mixed-use development as requested by the city. To make it a mixed commercial and residential space. The city made that request of the developer as a condition of this request for a general plan amendment. That being said, one of the major concerns that's been brought up over and over again about mixed use has been the issue of parking spilling out of the communities and impacting surrounding communities. Any fair review of this development plan, it is hard to imagine that somebody would drive to one of the neighboring developments, park in their community, and walk back. It borders on not reasonable to think that that's going to become a problem. On top of that, I'd like to say that we've had a lot of development growth, a lot of multifamily building. This is a for sale project. This is a project that is going to bring high quality new residents to our city, give families that live in our city a place. When I moved to Vista, I was a renter. My wife and I bought a first home that was an attached home in the city that was smaller than these units. This would have been a great property for us, and I look at this as a great property for young families who want to own a first home to have an opportunity to own a home. And what's really looks like it's going to be a very attractive development. It certainly would have been attractive to me as a home buyer some years ago, looking for a first property. So we do have a housing shortage. I don't use the housing shortage as an impetus to approve all projects. But this is a quality project that adds for sale folks who are going to be long-term members of our community. They are not on the low end of the income spectrum or of the for sale price spectrum. So these are going to be folks that are going to be, they're going to have high quality employment, and they're going to be excellent members of our community, have full expectation there. So for those reasons, I am supportive. I'm interested to maybe hear a little bit more discussion if we're going to approve contingencies, but that's my thoughts on this project.
Councilmember Aguilera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Councilman Franklin made a lot of my points, I think. When I see this project, I do see some smart growth ideas here. One of the standards for smart growth that I know we've discussed at Sandag that we're looking at is trying to put housing close, especially workforce housing, close to employment centers. And we've got the Vista Business Park right there, obviously right in the middle of it. But we also have the Carlsbad Business Park, and we have a major thoroughfare there that, although is busy, and I will admit that, but I also see that we're probably taking some cars off the road that are not going to be traveling through Vista to get to Business Park, taking, through our downtown. But I also think it's going to be helping downtown San Marcos, where those people are not going to be driving through San Marcos, coming off the 78 through Rancho Santa Fe or San Marcos Boulevard to get to Carlsbad to go to work or to Vista Business Park. So I think it is a smart place to put this type of development. And I know that's one of our council goals, is to improve the flow of traffic, reduce congestion, continue to improve our roads. Although admittedly it's not going to do a ton of that, but every little bit helps, and I think that's important. One of our other major goals as a city council was, continued fiscal sustainability, and economic development was another one as well. And I think that adding the hotel, and I know that it wasn't the primary goal of the developer, but I do appreciate you guys working with us. You understood the importance of us wanting to have that there for our business park, for the people that own businesses in our business park, and again, so that people have a close place to the various business parks and businesses there to stay. And that makes this hotel, along with the others that we've allowed in our city, make it a very attractive place to have a business, so that you can have out of town people come to, whether it's conferences or to do sales or whatever they need that for. So I think this project, when I see it, it meets at least 3 of our city council goals that we're looking for. And that is, again, it's going to help us with our fiscal sustainability, economic development. It is going to help improve some congestion and traffic flow for the city of Vista. And I think some of that will help San Marcos as well. So with that, I'm willing to support this.
Hi, and Councilmember Franklin and Councilor Aguilera pretty much have said it, everything I would have to say. You guys pretty covered a lot of it. So Councilmember Franklin wanted to say something else here.
Is there a speaker? Or?
No, this is just a developer. I was going to see if you wanted.
No.
Okay.
Well, I'll if you want to make the motion, I'll second it.
Okay, I'll make the motion that my motion is going to support staff's recommendation, but I would like to at least add the construction hours as a recommendation of no Saturday development. I think that's definitely reasonable. I know the condominium amenities thing was something that was recommended by our planning commission, but I know that was already addressed by the developer. Apparently, maybe some people on the planning commission were hoping for more. But I think that the pool is bigger, they promised me, than it looks on the picture. I know the tot lot was added. There's some walkability in there. So I think everything else is good. The traffic signal is going to be handled. The only one I would recommend is the construction hours. I think that's something the least we can do for our neighbors in San Marcos.
I strongly agree with the desire to limit the impact of construction. One thing that occurs to me, and I'd like to ask the developer to give us their thoughts on the limitation, is for every 5 days, for every 5 Saturdays that pass during construction, we're adding another week to the project. And my thought is, if I was a neighbor to the project, I might actually want the project to be completed faster.
I would happen to agree with you on that. Let's hear from the developer then and see what they say.
It will add length of time. I don't have a rough calculation, but it will add length of time ultimately to the duration of the direct construction schedule.
Are there...
Well, how long is it going to take?
Overall to build?
Yeah, if you just go Saturday, 6 days a week.
2.5 years.
Every Saturday? Ooh.
So we're looking at 18% longer than
That's 20 weeks of additional construction. I would respectfully ask that we allow them to construct under the existing ordinance, because adding 20 weeks, we're talking about 20 weeks added to the project. And to me, that seems like, if I live there, I might be concerned about 20 additional weeks of construction. I might rather just have are there reasonable limitations to noise on Saturday that you feel that you could work with the residents to implement some kind of reduction on Saturdays to loud noises?
Yeah, how about starting
like
later?
Explosives or
later start.
Currently, I think
later start maybe.
The
Yeah.
conditions, were you correct me if I'm wrong?
Yes, the conditions allow 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday as they're currently written.
What if Councilman Aguilera was saying maybe a 9 a.m. start time on Saturdays? And is there potential that you could work with the community on, say, the use of explosives or other things that might generate large noise? Or, well, I assume you're gonna have some. Yeah.
Specifically, the grading operations and the dirt movement as we get into the vertical construction. It's.
I know you're not dynamiting the cliffs, but there are ordinary.
Absolutely.
You know, so I would just add too that I think that this.
Excuse us.
I think this development team has reached out and has worked with the leadership of the surrounding neighbors. I'm impressed the relationship that you worked to build with the president of the Homeowners Association, and appreciate that you took some of the recommendations that they asked for and included them in your project. I think, this is, the fact that you sought to include some of that and are working to build that relationship. We would, of course, hope and know that you will continue to build that relationship and have a good relationship with the residents. So
we endeavor to be
that.
good neighbors. That was the impetus for doing it. So thank you.
So you're modifying your motion to limit construction to begin no earlier than 9 a.m.
9 a.m. on Saturdays.
Okay, I would second that motion.
Okay. I guess I see no more speakers, so I'm guessing then to call for the question. I have to close the public hearing. Closed. Cast your votes. That passes 4-1. Okay, the next thing on our agenda, moving on here. Hold on here. Is public hearing number 2, Citywide Parking Regulations Update. This is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding updates to the Citywide Parking Regulations. Public hearing is now open. And Community Development and Engineering Director John Conley will introduce the item. If you could please be quiet on the way out before we can continue our meeting. People. Okay. Don't care.
Madam Mayor, could I request a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Would you?
Sure.
Would everyone agree to that?
Okay, we're going to have a 5-minute break.
and need a restroom. And
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order again, and let's get started on public hearing number 2. Public hearing number 2 is Citywide Parking Regulations Update. This is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding updates to the Citywide Parking Regulations. So the public hearing is now open. Community Development and Engineering Director John Conley is going to introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor. Patsy Chow, our Deputy Director, will be providing the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor Ritter, council members. I'm Patsy Chow, Deputy Director of Community Development and City Planner. I'm pleased to be here this evening to present this public hearing item on the parking code update that we've been working during the past year on this effort. With me here tonight, I have Mr. Stefan Turoff sitting in the audience to my right. He is our Director of Planning Studies for Walker Parking Consultants, and he is here tonight to assist with any questions that the council may have on this topic. So in terms of, just to give you a little bit of background on where we've been, we started this update work last year in September, so a little over a year ago. And since then, we've held a total of 4 community meetings and workshops starting in November with a community-wide meeting. And on January the 19th, we had a workshop with the Planning Commission. On February 2nd, a workshop with the City Council. And then staff came back on May 24th to City Council as a discussion item. The last comprehensive update with regards to the parking regulations was done a little more than 20 years ago. And so it was time to basically go back and revisit these parking ratios in light of development patterns that have changed over time, infill development opportunities, redevelopment projects. And so basically time to go back and take a look at what we had in our regulations. On February 2nd, the City Council workshop, several concerns were raised with regards to parking for residential apartment complexes and how to prevent parking problems and issues surrounding apartment complexes. There was also discussion about parking restrictions, possibility of those in the downtown area, parking enforcement issues in general, and there was also discussion about the mixed use, land use, and multifamily development, the different parking ratios for these types of land uses. Staff came back at the May 24th meeting with some recommendations for the different parking ratios for the different land uses, and at that time, the consultant was asked to go back out into the community, conduct additional parking counts for different multifamily projects in response to the council's request. The consultant had already conducted counts at 5 multifamily projects, so resulting in a total of 9 projects that were looked at by the parking consultant. The results of the surveys were included in the agenda report as Exhibit 4. Since May, the staff and Walker Parking Consultants have drafted the final recommendations that are included in Exhibit 2 of the agenda report, and which basically goes over the number of parking spaces required by the different land uses. In the next 2 slides, I'm just quickly going to try to summarize the major recommendations that are before you tonight. In terms of the multifamily residential, as a result of the comments that we've received from the community and the various workshops and community meetings with the City Council and the Planning Commission, we heard loud and clear that there was basically the wanting of the community not to have changes to our parking ratios because there was a high concern and always the concerns with apartment complexes. And so therefore, staff at this time is recommending that the existing citywide parking ratios for multifamily residential projects, meaning both rental and attached for sale projects, they remain the same as they currently exist. So there are no changes to that. As far as mixed use, land use, there's discussions at those meetings about perhaps potentially allowing the use of the existing parking ratios in the mixed use zone, but for the true mixed use projects, not for residential only projects. But I would like to point out at this time that that discussion about the mixed use zone is going to come back to the City Council at a future meeting. And only after that, then the staff will be making formal amendments to the mixed-use zone to address the concerns that were heard before. And that would obviously be following more discussion with the City Council. So that will be in a separate meeting in the future. As far as commercial uses in general, the recommended parking ratios, there are some changes from our parking consultant to try to reduce some of the parking ratios to bring them more in reality with what is out in the marketplace, with what is out there that has been studied, for instance, by ULI, and also to help further attract economic development in our city. We have also introduced the tool of a parking study for certain land uses that identify on this slide, for instance, like hospitals and daycare centers, among other types of land uses, and only to be introduced as a tool to allow the project applicant to try to propose what is the right amount of parking for that land use on that site. So it gives them an alternative to try to better address what is the real parking need rather than just throwing a number that may not make sense for that particular land use. As far as the accessible parking for physically disabled persons, the Planning Commission made a request that we count the accessible parking separate from the required total parking for general use. Their concern was that if you're including those accessible spaces as part of the total required, most of the time they're left unused and not available for general parking. So basically, they wanted to have the accessible counted separate from the total required parking. In terms of figures and tables, there was a wholesale kind of going back and revising them to make them more consistent, clearer in terms of readability with the code text. So there's some changes or minor revisions overall to those. On this table, which is included in the agenda report, I'm not going to go through all of the different numbers, but I just mainly wanted to point out some changes related to the commercial, office, professional, institutional type uses, where we wanted to identify basically on the column all the way to the right, which is a net difference, which identifies what is the difference between the previous or the existing parking standard and what is being proposed as a revision. So for instance, on commercial retail on the first row, there's a net difference of a negative 0.4, meaning that our existing parking ratio requires 5 spaces for every 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. The proposed revision is that it would be then at 4.6 for every 1,000 square feet of gross floor area, and that would be the net difference of a negative 0.4. So that's just a continuation of that table as it relates to some changes to institutional public facilities and the introduction of a parking ratio for self-storage units, which currently does not exist in our code. On this slide, I just wanted to mainly just have the comparison of the current parking standards for multifamily apartments rental. On the left column, identified starting at 2.33 for studio and 1 bedroom. And again, that we're keeping them the same for rental as far and also for attached for sale products to follow the same ratio. On October the 4th, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the neg deck and as well as the amendments to the parking ordinance with a 6-1 vote. And with that, the staff's recommendation is to recommend approval of the resolution for the neg deck as well as the ordinance amending Chapter 18.54 related to the parking regulations in our development code. That concludes staff's presentation, and myself and staff from Taroff were available for any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have one speaker. Do you want to hear the speaker first? It'll be Michael McSweeney.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and new council member Green. I'm Michael McSweeney, Senior Public Policy Advisor at the BIA, and I'm speaking really fast because I had 2 pieces of cake. Your consultant recommendations, I've been through a couple of your hearings. They actually recommended lowering your parking standards to be more in line with your neighbors, which leads me to my next point, which is the law of unintended consequences. You are in a competitive environment with your neighbors. If I have a business, why would I want to come and open in Vista when your parking standards are higher? They're the highest of any of the cities around you. So you're not going to be competitive. The cost of additional parking spaces in residential is roughly $15,000 per parking space. So adding more parking spaces adds more costs. Who ultimately pays for that? While the developer may front the cost, it's the end user that will pay for it. Another unintended consequence is, believe it or not, the more parking spaces you put in, the more pervious payment. The more pervious payment, more stormwater that you have to treat. Which way are the stormwater regulations going? They're getting more stringent. So you're making it harder on your own city to comply with the regulations at the state level, which leave you open to violations. And we know what happens when that happens. These are no insignificant amounts. And then last but not least, I wanted to touch on the exclusion of the accessible spaces. I'm not a parking expert and I don't play one on TV, but your city would be the only one in the county that calculates it that way. And while it may be a feel-good way to do it, there again, you're just increasing, it's more sea of asphalt. And so I would ask that, you make your parking regulations as flexible as possible. There are trends in the LA area to where under multifamily development, they're actually looking at doing small houses. I mean, smaller than right after World War II. There's a couple of developments up in LA where, it's a 600 to 800 square foot house. It's an entry-level house. So if your parking standards are the highest up in North County, you may actually preclude your ability to have those types of developments. And I think that you would probably much prefer to have that than, let's say, row condominiums or townhomes, which are dense. But, it might be more preferable to have a more dense small house development than condos or townhomes. Merry Christmas, and if I don't see you, Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you. My next speaker is Ann Gunter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Ann Gunter. I'm with the Lightfoot Planning Group with our offices in Carlsbad, and I have been doing land use planning in North County for over 30 years, which will probably date me a little bit. I really wanted to address two things in your proposed ordinance. The first is the recommendation to do a parking study for certain special uses. That is extremely effective. I've seen that work really well for cities as well as for those special applicants, medical offices, hospitals, those kinds of things, recreational facilities. There is a lot of data about parking, but I think even your parking consultant will tell you that it can be very specialized. And so the publications that are put out on a statewide or even national basis need that flexibility. And so I think that's a really excellent thing to incorporate into your study to deal with those kind of special uses. The other item I want to address is the Planning Commission's recommendation to not count accessible spaces to meet your minimum requirements. That's, as was just indicated by the previous speaker, that is highly unusual. I've not seen that, not only just in this county, I've not seen it anywhere in all of our work in cities. And that's because the accessibility requirements are mandated through the building code. They're a set number, and that need for accessible spaces is based on your total number of spaces. So it seems like it's just an incremental number. People look at that and say, well, that space isn't being used. But those are fairly important spaces to have. And it really kind of conflicts with this whole concept of providing the right number of spaces. You're designing your parking standards to meet what's required. That incorporates in all of the studies the required accessible spaces. And so again, you're just penalizing people and requiring additional hardscape, the stormwater issues that were raised. And so I think, in fact, you would be increasing your spaces for all of your parking requirements, which to me goes against what your parking study was recommending. So we would ask you to not exclude those spaces, to allow those to continue to account. I know it seems like it's a very incremental amount, but every incremental amount starts to add to the cost of projects and the ability to provide the improvements that the city's looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Val Brown.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I have two sets of comments. One, just as a resident of one of the most densely populated areas in Vista. The parking study numbers that came back, I believe, were very low. I drive out of our development every morning at 5:30, and it is bumper to bumper parking as far as the eye can see. We live in a sea of cars. There is not enough parking. So while I can understand builders would like to have lower, we've been using this mixed-use standard for parking, and we need more parking because we have one of the highest densities in North County. We have the highest. So market rate apartments require that multiple people band together to live there. Therefore, there will be more cars. So the people that are being penalized by providing less parking are the neighbors in the existing neighborhoods where these infill projects are coming. Vista, South Vista communities could not be here tonight, and as a board member, I've been asked to read their concerns. They are concerned that the completed projects, Avalon, used mixed-use standards, and they feel that the only benefit is to the developer, not the residents of the complex or the community in the surrounding area or the businesses who have all been affected by that. You can go to Pancake House any day and you can see that their parking lot is full from Avalon residents and the restaurant is not open. If you're going to have mixed use, true mixed use, then you can have a different standard. But if you're going to have pure residential, you need to adhere to the residential standard. There's concerns that Vista Palomar is, mostly residential, and they are using the lower parking standards. And that was a condition that the Planning Commission asked for, and it wasn't even discussed here tonight about additional parking. So, what's reasonable, what could be done. Creekside is another example of development. It's purely an apartment complex. And just because it's going to be built in their existing businesses doesn't mean that it's a mixed-use complex. So not having sufficient parking spaces for residents will mean that cars in the apartments will no doubt encroach on the parking intended for businesses. We would urge the City Council to ensure that multi-residential zone standards are required for development projects that do not make mixed-use standards. And I would also encourage you to look at the work that the Planning Commission did and their recommendations. They spent a lot of time on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Franklin.
So I thought that we were going to have the residential and the commercial discussion separately. And it seems like we just said we were going to bring the mixed discussion back. So I'm confused. Are we having the whole...
So we're not proposing to change any of the parking regulations at this time for residential. What's in front of you does not include residential. We will bring the mixed use issue back before you. We're intending to do that on January 10th and have that mixed use discussion and get your direction.
Okay, well, since it was agendized and presented by staff and spoken to by residents, I want to echo what? It's on these documents. The staff spoke about it and the public spoke about it. I can't speak to the things the staff just spoke to.
No, you can. I'm just saying that the conversation on residential is that we're not proposing to change it per your direction a few months ago. That's all.
Right. I could have already finished my remarks on this topic.
But are we going to talk about mixed use tonight?
Well,
okay.
I could have already finished my remarks.
Oh,
so
okay.
I mean they're quite brief. I just wanted to say that, and I've lost my train of thought, but I wanted to say that I agree that we should mandate the use of our ordinary residential standards wherever there is not a true mixed use. That's basically the extent of what I wanted to say there. So I'm anxious that we do that and that we bring that issue back. I'm looking forward to that. Also, I do not agree with the recommendation to add the accessible spaces on top of other requirements. I think it is not only incongruous with what is ordinary and is identified by the fact that we'd be the only city to do it that way. It just creates a math problem. If we want more parking, we should just raise the number, not start adding things in and creating a bizarre system of of Legos to raise the number. We should just raise the number. So I don't support that. Is that part of the staff's recommendation here? If we move the staff recommendation, do we need to move it without that?
It's part of the Planning Commission's recommendation, which is included in the staff recommendation. So yes, if you want to strike that, we can make the appropriate changes to the ordinance.
Okay. I would like to offer right now a motion to strike that from the staff recommendation, so that if we do decide to move the staff recommendation, that it would be without that item.
No problem.
And then on top of that, I really wanted to have a little bit more depth on the commercial stuff, because I think it is imperative that we reduce the amount of spaces that are required for our commercial properties. Frankly, I think it's one of the reasons that the Breeze Hill Center didn't do as well as it could have, is because there was way too much parking in front of the stores that caused a massive setback. I mean, it was bad design and other things. North County Square is the bigger example by far of what an ocean of parking does to our stores. I would encourage everyone to go to Google Earth and look at Grand Plaza in San Marcos. The footprint of that entire shopping center is so much smaller than all of North County Square, and there's a lot of great shared parking. We need to allow our North County Square owners to build more retail square footage, bring more stores and more customers in, and allow them to use the parking more effectively. So I'm very, I almost wonder if we're going far enough, but I'm happy with an incremental approach, and we can readdress it later. But I think we strongly need to reduce that. I think it will improve the economic viability of our shopping centers. We don't want any more of our shopping centers closing. So I am very strongly supportive of this measure to decrease the amount of commercial parking required. And I am soliciting a second for my motion about removing from the staff recommendation the accessible parking addition, if there is a second.
Okay. You have a motion and a second. All right. So that will just go along with the motion when we get the big motion, I'm assuming? Okay.
Yeah, I would revise my motion to approve the staff recommendation less the accessible addition.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
Councilman Aguilar, you would second? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Okay. So moving on to Councilmember or Deputy Mayor Rigby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did have a question on the accessible parking spaces and that recommendation from the Planning Commission. Where did that idea come from? I'm assuming that there was a reason for it. There was discussion about it.
It came as a recommendation from one of the commissioners during discussion, exactly as Ms. Chow said, in recognition that a lot of them aren't used a lot and they would like to exclude them from the total parking requirement. And there was a consensus among the commission to recommend that.
Okay, so that came up from a commissioner, not a developer?
That's correct.
Okay. So just taking, for example, if you can, the project on Palomar Airport Road, San Marcos Boulevard, that was approved earlier tonight with the hotel, and then that multifamily project that has guest parking as well. Just if you can ballpark it, what would that increase those parking requirements to? How many spaces additionally would be required if we adopted the separation?
Do you have the code here?
There is a chart.
Yeah.
There's a chart.
Based on the number of units.
There's a chart in our current ordinance, which is actually based on building standards, and it's kind of a breakdown on what the total number of parking spaces are required. So, for instance, if let's say there is 400 or so, between 400 or about so spaces required, 8 would have to be accessible spaces. So we're talking about an additional 8.
An additional 8 for a project of that size.
Correct.
So I'm not really thinking that 8 parking spaces is a big problem for a big development. It's not like it's another ocean of asphalt. I just found it very interesting that came up, and I know that nobody else does that. So I wasn't really sure where that came from. But it's interesting. I have to put that on the back burner for a second. And then the other question I had for you is, in the table where we're talking about the different types of facilities that have different requirements for parking spaces, one of them is specifically set out as a standalone category, and that would be health clubs and fitness centers have to have X amount of spaces. And we do have the 24-hour fitness in Vista, and we also have LA Fitness, and they each are standalone facilities with pretty much dedicated parking lots. But we have several health clubs and fitness facilities in Vista. I could name maybe 3 or 4 of them that are actually in shopping centers, existing shopping centers. We have MetaHuman Fitness, we have Crunch Fitness, we have a 24/7 Fitness over on Vista Way. How are those parking spaces calculated in the overall shopping center when health club parking spaces are identified separately?
So basically, as we have, what we are proposing with the revision to have a decrease or a reduction for health clubs, that's related for standalone, as in the case of the 24-hour fitness, the LA Fitness, which is sitting on its own lot with its own parking, accommodating its customers. So in the case where you have the Crunch Fitness, that's part of a shopping center which has an overall parking ratio for that center.
Okay.
And that's how it differs from what we're proposing here.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. So they're just considered a tenant in the shopping center?
Correct.
Okay. And I do really very much appreciate that we're going to be talking about multifamily and mixed zone in January, and that is not part of this tonight. So thank you for that. And you are right. We've had a lot of discussion in the community on those 2 items, and we have heard loud and clear from the community. And I am going to say, however, and staff, you know, I really appreciate everything that you do. You do a lot of hard work for us in the city, and it does not go unnoticed. But I am going to say I take issue with one word in the staff report, and that is on page 2 of 63, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraph down. It says ongoing concerns with a perceived lack of sufficient parking for existing and proposed multifamily residential projects are still prevalent throughout the community. My only issue in that sentence is the word perceived, and it's not perceived. We live this every single day in certain parts of the community. It's a reality. It's not a perception. It's not an opinion. So I would just have to say I saw that word and I was a little taken aback. I thought that wasn't really appropriate when we're talking about mixed use and multifamily parking ratios, especially with what we've seen in certain parts of the community. But I do appreciate that we're going to be talking about those 2 issues in January. And I also agree that we could probably lessen some of the commercial, because we do see a lot of empty spaces in these commercial shopping centers. Even though the stores seem to be full, the parking lots are not. So with the fact that we're going to be talking about the 2 other items in January, I'm good with the motion as it is.
Okay, so seeing I have no other speakers and seeing no other speakers here, we'll close the public hearing and cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. So moving on to our next public hearing, number 3. It's fees for public services and recreation and community services programs and city clerk services. This is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding fees for various city services. Our public hearing is now open. Recreation and Community Services Director Theron Dickman will introduce the item.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Thank you for your time this evening. In brief, the Recreation and Community Services Department comes before you once each year, usually in December, to review any proposed fee changes for the services we provide in the RCS department. Tonight's staff report will be provided by Rachel Beld, our management analyst.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. As Mr. Dykeman just mentioned, tonight we will be presenting to you proposed changes for fees for services, policies, and procedures effective January 1, 2017. Recreation and Community Services provides programs and activities that relate to the recreational ideals of the community. The department operates many of Vista's recreation and cultural arts attractions and facilitates the delivery of adult and youth recreation activities for social services programs for seniors. We offer a variety of programs: senior services and nutrition, recreation programs, cultural arts, wave water park, and our administration, public art. For the calendar year 2017, we're facing some cost considerations. Primarily, the minimum wage increase effective January 1, 50-cent minimum wage increase, is estimated to have a department-wide impact of approximately $35,000. We're also expecting increases to contracts related to the minimum wage increase and increases to utility charges. The City Council has established, in 2012, the City Council established subsidy levels for each of our divisions. Cultural arts, a subsidy of $200,000. Senior nutrition, a subsidy of $275,000. The Wave Water Park, a subsidy of $400,000. And the recreation division, a self-sufficiency threshold of 70%. This slide summarizes the history, the last several years of subsidy information for our cultural arts programming. You'll see that in 2015-16 fiscal year, we had an actual subsidy of $249,000 after the foundation contribution. I'm getting an echo. This slide summarizes the proposed changes to our facility rentals category within the Cultural Arts Division. We recommend that creating a new rental category for Club M space using the same pricing as the Avo Playhouse rentals. The ticket prices for our programs were previously approved. This slide summarizes the subsidies for the last several fiscal years for the Wave Water Park. You'll notice that our most recent fiscal year, 2015-16, had an actual subsidy of $273,000. For the Wave Water Park, our proposed changes relate primarily to our general admission pricing. To offset the increased cost of minimum wage, which is expected to impact the Wave Water Park for $15,000 for the calendar year 2017, we're proposing a modest $1 per ticket increase for our general admission, group rate, and Friday night splash tickets. I'd like to point out that our resident rate, which was established last year, will remain steady, which represents a 10% discount for our Vista residents. We're expected the $1 proposed increase for general admission, group rate, and Friday night splash is estimated to bring in an additional $56,000 for the entire summer season. This slide just highlights the current pricing and the proposed changes. Our recreation division is proposing no increases at this time. The minimum wage increase that relates to our staffing costs for this division can be absorbed and still maintain our 70% threshold across our recreation division programs. Senior services and nutrition. Recently, the city contracted with Kitchens for Good for our congregate meal program and also with Meals on Wheels San Diego for our home-delivered meal program. And our contracts with those two agencies, we feel, address our minimum wage concerns for those programs. We are proposing, however, to increase the non-senior price for lunch to $8, which was previously $6. This slide is a summary of the 5-year rate amendment history, just for your reference. And this slide summarizes the proposed policy amendments. A full red line version of our policies and procedures is available in your packet this evening, as is a comparison between all of the fees for service that we've proposed and the previous rates as well. The highlights of the proposed policy amendments are that we've clarified insurance requirement language for vendors utilizing park and facility rentals, clarified alcohol service requirements relating to which items must be served in cans, and we now are proposing to allow youth events at Park Terrace, which is inside the Gloria McClellan Adult Activities and Resource Center. Some other smaller changes include adding the word glitter to indicate that glitter is not allowed in our facility rentals. Culture caravan trips must be paid in full at the time of reservation, and that the use of the kitchen at the Gloria McClellan Center does require additional personnel. This concludes my report regarding Recreation Community Service proposed changes. Staff is available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
I don't have any speakers. Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Because the minimum wage is going up in January, everybody's going to be hit across the board, including the city. And I understand that. And it's sad that we have to raise rates to be able to continue the programs that we offer here in the city. And it is with great hesitation and a heavy heart because, I'm the first one to say no, don't raise any rates on anybody. But if we don't keep up with the minimum wage, that's going to be detrimental to the city. So with that, I move that we close the public hearing and accept staff's recommendation.
Okay. Next is Councilmember Franklin.
I would second your motion, but some questions. Are we going to allow plastic containers? You said you were going to disallow everything but cans. Will plastic containers be allowed?
For alcohol?
Mm-hmm.
For facility rentals where alcohol is served, the alcohol policy, is in your packet, and let me pull that out. But it basically identifies that certain items must be served in cans. I don't believe we specify plastic items. I don't know what alcohol items are served in plastic containers.
Is the objective to eliminate breakable containers?
Yes.
Can you just eliminate breakable containers rather than specifying cans?
I'd like to call on Program Manager at the Center, Donna Meeser. She probably has some more in-depth knowledge of the policy.
Good evening. The clarification is there are different percentages of alcohol, and what we're trying to eliminate is bringing alcohol in kegs, which tends to lend to faster drinking, a little bit more inebriated individuals. And so also to eliminate the bottles as they're walking around. So we are requesting that they pour the alcohol into a plastic or otherwise container so that if there is breakage, there's less issues. So that's the clarification for it. No kegs and trying to reduce walking around with bottles.
So you want to eliminate kegs in an effort to reduce consumption?
Currently, kegs are already not allowed. We're just trying to clarify better in the verbiage of the policy. So that's not a change to the policy for the kegs.
Okay. But if I wanted to bring plastic bottles, that wouldn't be permitted?
That would be permitted.
Would be permitted.
Correct.
Oh, okay. All right.
And maybe what we need to do, as you stated, is clarify that it's non-breakable containers.
Right. My thought is, because I've friends and family have rented facilities from the city, and we place a lot of restrictions, which I think it not only creates some frustration, but we want people to rent the facilities and we want them to enjoy them. So the more we can be flexible, and I understand getting rid of breakable containers, and I understand limiting consumption. I agree with those ends. I just want to make sure we provide maximum flexibility if possible.
Absolutely.
So, the other question I had was about long-term. So we're going to stay at $6 for meals for seniors? Well, no.
Currently,
and hold on, just to correct, the staff is proposing that we increase the price for the companions of seniors or those who are not seniors from $6 to $8. But
that is correct.
But the $6 is that the same price as last year?
The senior meal program is actually donation based. There's no flat rate.
Oh, okay. So it's a suggested donation of $6. Is that it?
That's correct.
I see. Okay.
I'm sorry, may I?
Oh, yes, please.
For seniors, the suggested donation is $4. For a non-senior, it is a fee.
I see.
Of $6.
I see.
And that is a county grant requirement. And we are just proposing to increase that from current year 6, which was established probably 10 or plus years ago, and just trying to keep current and stay within the subsidy. We're proposing to move the senior companion non-senior fee from 6 to 8. Seniors is still a suggested donation of $4.
And when is the last time, understanding the current policy is not a required payment, but a suggested payment, right?
For seniors, correct.
When's the last time that when was the last change to that $4 request, basically?
I am recently at the senior center just for 2 years, so I would have to research and get back to you. But as the analyst for the last 6 years before that, I don't recall that we've ever made a change to that.
Here's my thought. I think it's a great policy that we say, hey, if you're a senior citizen and you're hungry and you can't afford, it's free. But, there's probably a lot of seniors who, we do have a number of seniors in our community that are well-to-do. They're fortunate, and they may want to help more for folks who can't. Does it make sense to maybe make it $4.25 requested? I'm a big believer, and I hate raising the fee like Councilwoman Rigby, but I'm also a big believer that if we don't make regular increases in things, then we wind up making enormous increases, and then people are really upset and frustrated. And so I like to make sure that we just slowly, and then, perhaps if because it's really a donation, maybe somebody says, well, here, instead of $4.25, I'll just give you $5. I don't know, just maybe something for next year to think about.
Absolutely.
As I think if we leave things static for too long, then we just get into a place where if we're going to make a change, it becomes such a big change that it ruffles feathers. And if I was a senior citizen and I had means, I would want to give an amount that I thought was helpful. And so if it's just a guideline, maybe we want to think about that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Green.
Yeah, actually, I thank you for answering the question. I thought the fee was going up from $6 to $8 for our seniors. I didn't see any seniors in our audience, and I would assume that they would be here if they were upset about that. So thank you for clarifying. I like the idea of if they can't afford it, feed them, man. I might need a cheeseburger. Thank you.
Okay. I have one speaker, J.C. Wynn.
I got overlooked there.
No, we'd never overlook
good evening,
you.
Council, newly planning council and mayor and everybody. And whenever I see things like fee increases and recreation and youth, and I can tell you that I personally could know thousands of kids who have never got to go to the wave because they can't afford $15 or $16 to go swimming at the wave. So I'm always against raising any kind of fee because it reminds me of two four-letter words. When I was told that you should avoid four-letter words, and one of them's more and the other one is less. So whenever you're asking for more, you're going to get less people to be able to participate sometimes. So always try to keep that in mind. And the less I'm thinking about are the less kids that are living over here off of Indian Rock Road or in Ringtree Place or any of those old school places that I used to come from. So remember those two words, more and less. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Aguilera.
Thank you. I did have a question about one of the fees that I was not aware of, I guess, or just didn't think about, but the spectator fee at the wave. So we charge $18.95 currently, right? So is that like if a parent goes, they get charged $18.95?
That is correct, and they're eligible for a $4 refund at the end of the day when they turn in a dry wristband.
Okay. So how many of those do we collect in a day?
If you'll give me just a moment, I'll take a look at our budget and see if I can give you an idea.
Okay.
What I can tell you is our budgeted figure for the year, which isn't, we'd have to do the math, is roughly $6,000 of revenue.
Total?
Yeah.
That's the new budgeted, or that's last year's budget?
That was last year, and this year is not much difference.
Okay. So that's 300?
I have last year's at $59.80 for the original budget, and this year's proposed, it's $63.80, so a difference about $300.
People.
You're not wanting to go to pay that to go in and watch your kids?
I think
I know
it's a lot of money to just watch kids.
Just to go in there and sit and watch and babysit.
Yeah, that's like the only one I was opposed to.
I can tell you, in my previous experience in other agencies, while I don't necessarily disagree that some people might feel that exact same thing, it's not uncommon in the aquatics industry to charge people for usage of the facility, whether they're enjoying the deck chairs, enjoying the amenities, and not getting in the water. The theory is they're still a customer, and that there's a fee that there's a value to that, so they're charged accordingly.
Yeah.
We have to replace their deck chairs occasionally.
How does the dry wristband? What do you give them, a cloth wristband or something?
Yeah.
What is it? Just paper?
Mm-hmm. I believe it is. I haven't actually seen it myself turned in, so, but you can tell whether it's been used versus not.
All right. I guess maybe that is why I just dropped my daughter off there. That's the orders I get from home. So, okay. That's fine, I guess.
Okay. Oh, Councilmember Green.
I just had a question. When JC got up and spoke, he spoke about underprivileged kids and underprivileged youth in our community, and a lot of them that haven't even been able to go to the wave because it's $14.95. I'm just wondering, once again, I'm new, like really fresh, just went on payroll today for the record. Do we have any type of allotment of tickets that we set aside for our, socioeconomically deficient, youth that would, hey, we have a certain allotment of hey, every year we set aside 30 tickets or 40 tickets for kids who fill out a little request because they can't afford to go. Is there anything like that we have in this city for some of the people who can't afford to go?
We do offer a discounted resident rate, and we do have a participation agreement with Vista Unified, which we give a chunk of tickets to Vista Unified School District for both Moonlight and the Wave for them to use for donations and charity purposes that they
for student achievement. And how many tickets is that, if you know?
I don't remember right off the top of my head. Maybe. I could check into that.
It's okay.
I'd like to call upon our new Wave General Manager, Angela Palisic, to come up and perhaps she has more insight into that. Angela served as the Assistant General Manager for several years with us.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Council and Mayor. We give the Vista Unified School District 100 tickets each year to distribute out how they see fit for the Wave Water Park.
Okay.
We also give tickets to nonprofits and other organizations that request tickets from us, both for the Wave and the Moonlight as well.
Okay, so we do have an allotment where we say, hey, we make sure we give this much. Cool. Thank you.
My question is actually very similar. So how many do we give away to charitable organizations?
Mr. Dykeman, do you have that answer on?
I don't have that information right now, but I can get back to you.
Can you ballpark it?
I'd say
maybe 500
between the.
Okay. My question was similar but very different in that I was going to ask, do you have a partnership with a charitable foundation, a 501c3, if somebody wanted to make a gift, say through the Boys and Girls Club, if somebody wanted to sponsor 10 kids or 100 kids to have access to the Wave Water Park, if somebody wanted to say, I specifically want underprivileged youth to have access to the Wave, and I want to write a check, and I want it to be a tax-deductible charitable contribution. Have we facilitated a partnership like that? And, I know we don't have resources to market a bunch of new stuff, but, if we don't even have that arrangement, I just think that'd be pretty cool. Maybe I'd be willing to give to that.
Sure. Sure. No, it's a great question. Currently, we don't have a specific nonprofit partner for the Wave or aquatics operations. However, if we receive questions like that, I do believe we have means that we can explore to help facilitate that.
I would like to challenge the Wave to reach out, not just to the Boys and Girls Club, but perhaps to as many as 3 charities to build that partnership and make a suggestion. And I don't know where the appropriate place to market it would be, whether it's in a city newsletter or maybe there's maybe there's a little sticker on the window that says, ask me how you can, support, deserving youth in our community attending. I mean, that's wordy, but you get the idea. I mean, how could we let people know about this great idea we've got, which is, if you wanted to sponsor 10 kids or 5 kids or 1 kid, to have a ticket to the wave?
I think it's a good idea. We'll explore that. I can tell you that staff and I have had discussions partially to that end because there's a great need. And learning how to swim is one of the most significant services that our department can provide for both youth and adults because we do group lessons as well as individuals. So we'll take a look at that.
Kind of corporate sponsorship at the wave? I mean, I wonder if companies in Vista would like to have their name somewhere in the wave because they sponsored 1,000 underprivileged kids to have access to the wave, and they give the tickets out, and it's kind of like gift certificates. Some get used, some don't. So there's actually a greater value to a gift certificate or a coupon because some are redeemed and some aren't. And so as the seller, it's a greater value. So I don't know, have we explored any ideas like that?
I think we've had discussions. Nothing's come to fruition at this point as far as specific actions, but I know internally staff have discussed the possibility of some kind of a package or sponsorship that lends itself to various services we have, not just within our department, but potentially citywide. Nothing is finalized, but there are discussions that have been started.
That seems like a great PR opportunity for some of our business leaders to do something really amazing for underprivileged kids in our community and get some good PR out of it. I mean, I don't have a specific proposal I'm making right now, but I'd love to hear one come back to us from staff.
And we do have corporate sponsors at the wave in particular. We just don't have that outreach to the nonprofit side of it at this time.
Okay.
Okay, Councilor Aguilera.
Well, here's some good ideas. I think I could support some of those ideas. Obviously need some further development on it. So I don't want to be the bearer of bad news or I know you said we give out 500 tickets to various nonprofits and that in the school district. My experience has been that I see a lot of those tickets getting auctioned off at different tournaments, golf tournaments and that, which are good for the nonprofits, so I'm not against it. But I'm doubtful that they're actually being used for underprivileged kids is all. So maybe we do need to explore other ways to distribute tickets or additional tickets, because I think the nonprofits are using it for good as well. I mean, they're coveted prizes, generally speaking, and they're helping those nonprofits in a lot of other ways that they help our community. So whether it's children themselves or homeless individuals, whatever the interest is of that nonprofit. But I did want to point out the season pass is a really good deal. For those families that, it seems like a lot of money, $69, but if you've got no other way to take care of your kids during the day while you're at work, $69.
You can drop them off. No $19 fee for watching them.
Yeah, that's a great deal. So I know several families that take advantage of that. I know we have deals and lineup. I guess people line up sometime in early May, right, or something like that to buy those things. So I think that's a great deal, and I'm glad to see that that's continuing. So.
Speaking of great deals, right now the Wave Season Pass is on sale for $50.
Oh,
and so that's through December 17th or December 19th, and that's at the Wave Water Park. So you can go to the Wave Water Park.
How are we advertising that?
Yeah, we've been advertising it. Yeah.
How?
Is that on Groupon?
Social media. I'm not sure about Groupon. We've done an e-blast. We have a significant number of people through that. I know it's on our website, the city's website as well, on the front page.
Twitter?
Our community connection just sent it out. That's how I...
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. $50 for the summer. It's a great deal. Thank you.
Yeah, that's still in town, right? Councilmember Green.
Okay, sorry, last thing on this. I got a big heart for kids, and I was an underprivileged kid in this community that had no access to a pool people that probably couldn't afford to go to the wave. So I'm just wondering, and maybe it's a request or a challenge per se, is if we've ever done a day where we say, hey, free swim for all Vista kids, or hey, today's $1 day for every Vista resident. If you have $1, we'll let you in the wave. And will that cause mass hysteria and it be packed? Yes, but it gives everybody the opportunity. And, I don't know. I would have been stoked if you would have said, hey, I can go to a Cannonball for $1. And that's a place, if I live on East Los Angeles, Townsite Drive, I could walk there. And that'd be awesome. So anyways, I hang out with a bunch of kids. I don't know if you've done it or if you would.
Okay, do I need a motion on this? Oh, I have a motion already? Oh, okay. Motion and a second? Okay, let's vote. I closed the public hearing. It's closed. That motion passes unanimously. So moving on to our discussion items. Discussion item number 1 is the appointment of a deputy mayor. I need a new deputy mayor for a 1-year term here. So nobody wants to make the motion. I would nominate John Franklin to be my deputy mayor.
I'll second.
Who seconded that?
Yes, I did. I just want to make sure I got in on a second real quick. That was me seconding. Joe Green, thank you.
Anybody have any I see speakers. Councilmember Aguilera, you're going to make the motion.
I was just going to make the motion or second, so Joe beat me.
How about Deputy Mayor Rigby? Deputy Mayor almost to be gone, Rigby. I can
change the title.
Okay, please vote.
And if I might, I want to say thank you to the mayor and my colleagues for that honor.
We're not done yet. Next thing. Okay, appointments to the boards. Appointments to officials to board. What's coming?
Keep going.
Oh, he said keep going. Okay, so I need resolutions for adopting all of our council members, the different boards of directors: North County Dispatch, Regional Solid Waste, San Diego Association of Governments, Encina, North County Transit District. Did I cover them all?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Can we cast our ballots? Okay, there we go. That motion passes unanimously. The next thing is discussion item number D3 would be temporary signage during election periods. Deputy Mayor Rigby asked for this item to be on the agenda, so I will ask her to introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to have a discussion on campaign signs during election season, and I don't have any fabulous graphics for you. I think we all drove down Santa Fe and Vista Way and Vista Village and Melrose, and this particular election cycle was even more over the top as far as signs go than any of the other election cycles that I can recall. And some of the problem was not only were there just so many signs out there, but they weren't cared for. They were shoved into the bushes, they were in the street, they were in the gutter. A lot of times people weren't going out and maintaining their signs. And it really became overwhelming, and it made the city look bad during that time period. And the other thing is, after the election, I think having 5 days to clean up our signs might be 4 days, 3 days too long. We should get out there immediately and get our signs out of the right of way, or out of the public view. I think 40 days for signs, campaign signs, is a lot. So what I would like is to have a discussion on removing signs from the public right of way so that they can only be on private property, and also reducing the number of days after the election. Say right now it's 5, maybe reduce that to 2 days, give 48 hours to get our signs out of the public view. So I just wanted to open this up to my colleagues and for discussion. we can discuss, or I'll just go ahead and make a motion.
Councilmember Green?
I also was a part of this election cycle and saw a lot of signs. This is my deal. I can put signs all over private property. I got a pretty good following here. I've lived in Vista for 30 years. The only concern I have with taking them out of the right of way is those candidates that don't have that following, is that maybe they don't have that option of the visibility. So that's my only thing. However, the removal of signs, heck yeah, 2 days is awesome. Maybe 24 hours. I think Amanda and I high-fived at 12:01 in the morning while we were picking them up. Not that either one of us had won yet, but we were so excited to get the signs down. So I would think anybody who loves our community would probably be able to adhere to that.
Councilor Aguilera.
Well, I think signs are part of our free speech, and I think that the public right-of-way is appropriate for that, but I do think that we probably can have some regulation in it. I was not part of this campaign cycle, but I have been in the past. I'd be in favor of taking a look at, and I know staff doesn't like this, but I think it can be done, because I think the public would help us in this area, but I think if we could limit the number of signs per intersection, because there was a couple of intersections that were just inundated and it looked like trash, and I just don't think that's positive for the community. One of the things that is on our council goals is to decrease blight, and we're allowing blight basically to happen in our city. But at the same time, I think we have to approach this in a measured way, because again, there is free speech. Of course, it's protected. And as Councilman Green pointed out, not everybody's going to have the same avenues that some locals have. I think in a way, you're prejudicing the ordinance towards people that are deep-rooted in this community. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, I don't know. But I think everybody, if you live here for a month, you should be able to run for city council, and if people want to vote for you, then great. So I think the public right-of-way is appropriate, but I think we can limit have certain regulations. And I think that it would have to be something that code enforcement is not necessarily out hunting down, because that would be a burden on our staff. But my experience is that other members that are running or candidates that are running will do their job of enforcing and calling, not enforcing, but actually calling code enforcement to make sure these things get taken down. So I don't think it would take very long for complaints to come in. But we don't only have our local candidates. We had national candidates that were offenders as well. And, we have state people that run as well in our city. So, I think we have to be able to enforce it on those individuals as well. So I guess that's my 2 cents. I'm not opposing it, the idea. I definitely support it. I think we need to take some of those ideas hopefully into consideration.
Councilmember Franklin.
I just would point historically out the fact that we did reduce the amount of days to remove signs from 10 days, which had been a long-standing ordinance. We did have that and made it 5 days. Another thing I would point out is, the 5 days does include, I think, at least a Saturday or maybe a Sunday. And there may be people who are seeking public office who have a full-time job, and they may not have staff or volunteers, and they may need that Saturday to get their signs down. So I agree. I would like the signs all to come down immediately, but I'm concerned about placing a burden on somebody that, working people should have a right to run for office too. So I think most candidates kind of do try to get out. And I know I was trying to get mine down. So, it certainly leaves a bad taste in the community's mouth if you leave your signs up. I support the 5 days because I think it's reasonable and it's half of what we used to do. And I can't support any kind of limitation on the numbers on this intersection or that, because it's difficult for me to imagine exactly how you'd construct that so that it would be fair to all candidates. Any limitations are going to necessarily favor a candidate with less ability to place signs, because then somebody who has a bigger base of support, raises more money, can afford more signs, have the greater ability to put signs out. Now, you're doing something to help or hurt them potentially. I just really look at it, and I ask all of our citizens to, as frustrating as it is to look at those signs, it's a part of the democratic process through which we elect our representatives, and I'm a big believer in that process. And as frustrating as it can be sometimes, the mail, the phone calls, the campaign signs, it is vital to how we administrate democracy in our city and in our country and our state. So, I just ask folks to put their kind of 12th grade civics hat on and go, this is how we do America. And I know it's frustrating, but engage in the process and learn and become educated and be active voters, and we need people to civically engage. So to me, I want to facilitate that engagement. So not hearing a specific proposal, I think just generally I'm supportive of the current ordinance.
Actually, I agree with Councilmember Franklin. I've been through 5 elections, and they've been bad. They're always bad, and always you just can't wait. Oh my gosh, can't wait to get those signs down after the election. I know when I did it, we've been out election night, and then always there's one you don't know about that's somewhere. Somebody goes, "Oh, good, get your signs down." It's like I didn't put it there. Somebody, and you don't even know about it. It's out somewhere random. So, but I just think new people that want to run that don't have name recognition, if they can't put signs out there, then how does anybody get to know who they are or recognize their name to vote for them? So I just think it's a part of our political process to do it. As much as I hate it, and it does look junky and trashy, and I see it in other cities too. So it isn't just our city. So anyway, so I would support Councilmember Franklin. So in that supporting what's currently there. So Councilmember Rigby. Yeah. Oh,
One last time.
Oh,
Deputy Mayor. No.
Okay, Deputy Mayor. I'm not sure what to call everybody today.
Amanda works. As far as the 5 days goes, I know that it was half of what our previous one of 10 days, but 5 days to me is still really long, and I appreciate people have jobs. I have a job. And on Wednesday morning, November the 9th, I left town to go up north on city business, and I got my signs down that night after the election, with the exception of the ones that volunteers had put out I didn't see, but the community was very helpful in bringing those down for me, and I appreciated that very much. So it can be done. And so other cities, including some here in North County and San Marcos and a couple of others up here, I don't remember exactly which, have an ordinance that it's not allowed in the public right-of-way. And it seems to work really well because you still see signs all over San Marcos. But if we had them where we still allowed it in the right-of-way, but we tried to regulate the number of them or the size of them or something, that puts an incredible burden on staff and code enforcement in trying to enforce and go out and count how many signs are at a particular corner. So I don't see that we can do regulation in the public right-of-way. I don't see that would happen. And I really would like to see the signs eliminated from the right-of-way, and the time reduced from 5 days to 2 days to 48 hours, I think, is sufficient time to get people out there. And you're probably going to have the rogue sign, because I know I had volunteers who put signs out, and I didn't know where they put the signs. You just drive all over town hoping that you see them. So this election cycle, and I appreciate that it's part of the campaign process, it's part of America, it's part of who we are, that we get to put our name out there, we get to put our signs out there, we get to campaign for the office. But I also think that as the city, this time particularly, and I've lived in the city for 24, almost 25 years, this was the worst ever. There were so many signs everywhere, including the bushes. And it just seemed like if someone's sign got knocked over, they just put another one up and they left it in the bushes. So I really would like to see, perhaps asking if staff could come back with some type of a recommendation. Otherwise, I'll make a motion right now. I would move that we reduce the time for the campaign signs to be picked up after an election to 48 hours, 2 days, and that we disallow them in the public right-of-way. So that's my motion.
Looking for a second. Councilmember Aguilera.
I would like to be able to support your motion, but I do agree that we probably should have a little bit further discussion on this. Perhaps staff, they've heard plenty of ideas. Maybe they can formulate some ideas, and from that, I think we could have a more productive discussion on this. But I won't be able to second it right now.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you for allowing the discussion.
So, where am I? So moving on to the, is that the end of the meeting? Oral communications. Oh, wait, oral communications. I put my, I thought we were done. Okay, oral communications. Each speaker is given 3 minutes to speak on matters not on our agenda. And so we have 2 speakers. First one is Michael O'Connor.
Good evening. My name is Michael O'Connor. I'm a Valley Center resident. I'm here to speak on talking about signs. Measure B had a lot of signs, and a lot of those signs were in your neighborhood. This measure came to our community. The whole county voted on it. And there's many mayors in the North County that supported it. I have no mayor that came up. I'm on the planning board that came up and drove these roads. This developer has been attacking our community for the last 10 years. I'm going to read some of the mayors that came onto this board with this developer, with this serious housing crisis. The serious housing crisis was a forest. Mayor Randy Vospel of Santee. That's about 50 miles from Valley Center. Mayor Bill Wells of El Cajon. That's about 50 more miles from Valley Center. Mayor Sam Abed, our neighbor that we support. Mayor Judy Rittner of City of Vista. And Mayor Jiz Desmond of San Marcos, and Mayor Mary Salas of Chula Vista. They gathered these signatures in Oceanside and in Chula Vista. They lied to these people that gathered these signatures with false things about veterans and affordable housing. This developer with his bag of money has been going around our community and jeopardizing our citizens and trying to buy his way into our community. This is a farce. This is upsetting to all my residents up there. We have supported most of the cities in San Diego County, including Vista and many other cities, and Oceanside, and all of these cities. Our community is upset because why? Because these mayors decided to take hands up with this developer and attack our community. Why? We don't know why, but the whole county voted on it. Do you know what the outcome of the measure was, Mayor? Do you know what it was? 735,894 people voted against it. You know, there's 37 pages of contributions. Does anybody ever hear about the North County Leadership Council? It's a pack of mayors that endorses projects that attack these communities. This is upsetting. You call this a democracy? To use a citizen's initiative this way? To gather signatures, to have a whole county vote on a community? What are we teaching our citizens about the democracy that we have? This is a farce. This is upsetting, and it's pissed off our community up to no end. When you talk about affordable housing starts way about $300,000. This developer has spent over $8 million on this. Do you know how many affordable houses he could build?
I need you to wrap up.
You want me to wrap up? I think it's an insult that all these mayors got on board with this attacking our community. And we would like an apology about that. I'm on the planning board. Nobody came up to our community and drove those roads. Those roads are windy. There was nothing in here for any of that.
Your time has expired. Your time is up.
My time is up? No, I think your time.
Well.
You're going to come up for re-election, and we'll be coming to your town and make sure that you don't get back on that dais.
Thank you, sir. J.C. Wynn. Okay, Santa, happy birthday.
Merry Christmas. They said if I hold my flyer right here, I'll be able to see it on TV tomorrow or Friday, whatever day it's on. So I'm J.C. Wynn, a.k.a. Santa in the city of Vista, and my birthday is on Thursday, and we're going to have a big giant party up at the Vista American Little League Field located at 1310 Lee Drive this Saturday. And the hamburgers and the hot dogs are going to be on me and Bobby Jones from the Sunrise Cafe. We're going to have some DJ playing music out there. We're going to get out there and clean the tumbleweeds and the debris and whatever. Home Depot's on board giving me trash picker-uppers for the little kids. And we're just going to have a good old time. And we're inviting everybody in the city of Vista. So maybe we can get 97,000 people out there to Vista American Little League Field. We have a good chance of getting that open by the opening day on March the 1st, so these little guys can get out there and play baseball on their home fields, which it's been a while since they've been able to do that. So I hope everybody shows up.
Any donations of any kind?
Excuse me?
You need donations of any kind?
Well, we're gonna have a drive-through where if they can't come out and help clean up and they just want to come give $20, we're gonna have a jug and raise money because we got to buy a lot of concrete and we got a good rate for concrete, but we still have to spend money on it. And my other thought was the other meeting Mr. Franklin was talking about how to disperse the $682 million, whatever they had, or $1,000, excuse me. Maybe we should pitch into some concrete at the Vista American Little League. So that's another idea. But anyway, thanks for the time, and thanks for everything you do. And remember, kids count, because someday they're going to be taking care of us. So remember that. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and happy birthday.
Happy birthday, JC, and thank you for what you're doing.
Okay, with that, now I think that we are toward the end of our meeting. And so we have to do remarks, right? Remarks. I don't have another page. I'm using the back page. I don't see another page there. So we'll go to remarks. So I'll start with Councilmember Green. Do you have any remarks this evening?
I am just extremely happy that this first meeting is behind me and that I can settle down and do ample research going into January. And thank you, community members who last sat out this entire meeting. Obviously, you are few and far between, but thank you for caring, and thank you for sitting around, and thank you for being here, and thank you for being heard. Have a great rest of your night.
Deputy Mayor, last time Rigby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Congratulations and welcome, Joe. Councilman Green. Sorry. It's okay. I do want to report that yesterday, I'm so sorry. It was Tony Winnie, assistant to the city manager. He accompanied me, as well as the city clerk, to the League of California Cities meeting, the San Diego division, yesterday. And we had a very, very interesting informative discussion or presentation by Tim Cromartie, who is with the League of Cities in the Sacramento office, and he talked a lot about Prop 64 and what it means for the cities, of what we can do, what we can't do, what the state is doing about it, when it's going to be implemented. And then there was some information that came out that I was not aware of regarding some perhaps changes coming down on the federal level in January.
Which one is Prop 64?
The marijuana, recreational marijuana, I'm sorry. And so we had a long talk about that, and then the Sheriff's Department, Captain Turner from the Alpine office, came to talk about enforcement issues. And so it's going to be an ongoing discussion, and it was very interesting, and maybe we can have somebody give a presentation or something here that we can all hear about how it's going to affect the city and what we can do with the different laws. Some of it was very if I remember it right, some of it was very contradictory. One part of the proposition said one thing, and a different part said something different. So the state is trying to work that out, and I understand that they might be working on some legislation to clean up some of it and work out some of the details. But it was a really, really good discussion yesterday at the League, so I appreciated that very much. And I just wanted to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and thank you to staff for everything that you do for us. We do appreciate it. I appreciate it very much that you are all here and everything that you do for us and that you provide for us. So thank you to that. And everybody who is still here tonight, thank you for being here. Merry Christmas and happy birthday, JC.
Councilmember Franklin.
I would also thank everyone who took the time to come to the meeting and speak tonight. And I would say once more, a hearty welcome to Joe Green. We're really ecstatic to have him here, and it's already more fun. And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Councilmember Aguilera.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you as well, Joe. Welcome aboard, and I look forward to collaborating and working with you in the future and making Vista a continued better place.
Yay, I agree.
Merry Christmas.
What?
Sorry, Merry Christmas.
Oh, Merry Christmas. Yeah, I got that. Okay. We should maybe be saying Happy New Year too, huh? Because we don't see them for. That's for me left. Okay, so congratulations, Joe, council member. Nice to have you on board. Looking forward to working with you this year. And I have comments I have to read here. The city has received $2.8 million grant from the State Water Resource Control Board, which will be used to supplement stormwater and street improvements on the remaining phases of the Paseo Santa Fe Streetscape Improvement Project. Construction on Phase 2 begins in mid-2017, next year. So I'm assuming the parade won't be able to come down South Santa Fe again next year. We'll have to find another route. Yeah. Except that we did 3 turns around the circle, which was kind of fun. Okay. Nominations are beginning to be accepted for the 2016 Person of the Year. And so if you know of a resident or a business leader who's provided outstanding service to the community in 2016, I encourage you to nominate someone. And submittals are due December 29th, and details are online at thecityofvista.com for that. So, and then leaving town for the holidays, the Vista Sheriff's Senior Patrol provides vacation home checks. So call 760-940-4434 to set up a watch. It's 760-940-4434, and then they can set up a watch for you for your home. And happy holidays to everyone and their family. I look forward to working with the City Council, the community, and the business leaders in the new year on building on our 2016 accomplishments and more moving forward on 2017. And so now our city manager has comments.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I do want to congratulate Deputy Mayor Rigby and Councilman Green on your winning election.
Yes.
So congratulations to
I'm
both
sorry.
of you.
I guess because she's been here, I was congratulations, Deputy Mayor for the last time, Rigby.
And I also want to congratulate Deputy Mayor Rigby on her becoming the San Diego Division Vice President for the League of California Cities.
Yes, congratulations on that also.
San Diego Division President? Did I say Vice President? I'm sorry. Correction. President of the San Diego Division. So congratulations there. City offices will be open during normal hours during the holidays, but the library will have some closed hours, so including December 26th and January 2nd, as well as December 24th. We have normal hours, including December 26th and January 2nd. The library will be closed December 24th through the 26th and December 31st through January 2nd. And during the week after Christmas, residential trash will be delayed by 1 day. And then we do have a project going on Civic Center Drive to widen right after Phillips to put the 3rd lane in to the freeway. And so construction will be going on. So we just advise motorists to be cognizant of that and maybe avoid the area between the hours of 8:30 and 3:30.
Is that going out of town, going toward the freeway?
Going towards the freeway from the railroad tracks to the freeway. As you know, you gave authorization for us to go through and put a widened 3rd lane in.
And they're going to start at 8:30 in the morning?
8:30 in the morning to 3:30, trying to avoid early morning rush hour and when traffic
And when does that start again?
It started this week.
It started this week? Oh, okay. I may have to go that way. Okay, in the morning. Okay, I guess, how about down here? Does our city attorney have anything?
Well, I'd like to welcome Councilmember Green and wish everyone a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, and a very happy New Year.
And how about our city clerk? Okay. Okay, with that, if nobody has anything else, we are adjourned. Yay.